crouches as Gregory approaches, well defended. And there's no run from that one. Some tight bowling so far from Somerset.
Yeah, it's a good start. It's taken advantage. It's probably a little sticky and a little damp under there after being under the covers. It rained a lot last night and then all morning, so it's up to them to take advantage of that and keep the good line of length and kind of force the Ireland players to make a decision whether they have to play or leave it.
So far doing that very well, Lewis Gregory and his opening partner Josh Davey. Gregory in again up to the stumps and bowls, and there's again some more stout defending from Shannon, and there's no run from that one. Do get in touch with us, love to hear from you. I'm on Twitter at CharlieTaylor4, and do let us know where you are listening in from. And we've had quite a few messages from Belfast and Dublin and various other parts of Ireland, which is nice to know.
Yeah, I know there was definitely a good few people listening and watching yesterday on the YouTube channel to see the game and see the action.
Yeah, it's synced up for the first time at Somerset, syncing up the commentary with the live video stream. In comes Lewis Gregory to Shannon, who this time drives from the back foot, and they will get a single. They may get two as well, and that ball has evaded the man at point, and there's two. Tom Abel doing the fielding, running round from a mid-off position, and there's two there, so Shannon gets off the mark, and Ireland move to 4 for no loss. So going into the Test match then, this is obviously, as you say, a historic moment for Ireland. What would be a good result?
Win.
Do you feel that's realistic? Do you feel they're at a point where you can challenge Pakistan for a win?
I think we probably could.
Gregory in, and bowls to Shannon. Again, more defensive shots. That goes out into the offside, no run. That's the end of the over. 4 for no loss.
I think we've shown in a lot of ODI cricket and a lot of white ball cricket that we can compete, and we've been very strong in 4-day cricket with associate nations, and there's no reason why we can't compete with them. We're playing them in our own ground, in our own conditions, and it's early season. They'll be just fresh in and new to the conditions, so there's certainly no reason why we can't target a win and try and take them by surprise a little. Yeah,
that's the thing, is they can't look back at your test form and see what you do or how you do it, because this is the first one. So yeah, absolutely, the element of surprise is will be very useful, I'm sure, in that game. In comes Davey, that left alone by Tector outside his off stump. Yeah, well, good luck to you. I think it's such a great thing to have it announced last year. What was the reaction in Ireland like when it was announced?
It was real excitement. I think it was the 22nd of June, and I think everybody knew that the chief executive chairman were going into the meeting, and everyone knew what the meeting was about, and it was just that almost there was a lot of expectation, but it was just a huge sense of relief when the news that came out of the meeting that we actually did have the Test status.
Yeah, I think it's great news, increasing the amount of people that play it, and Davies in that one does get an edge off it. It looks like that one will run away for 4, such as the smallish boundaries they've got here. It does indeed go for 4 off Tector. Nicely played. It's a bit of a late coming down on it, and got the edge which got past the point fielder, and there's 4 runs there, the first boundary that we've seen for Ireland. Tector on to 5, 8 for no loss.
Yeah, just that short boundary down towards the pavilion there. It's obviously playing right over one side of the square, so that certainly helped them out a little bit there.
Yeah, just saving some of the middle grounds, I suppose, for the season a bit later on. In comes Davey again, and that time defended on the front foot by Tector, and there's no run from that one. Quantocks now much more visible than they were a bit earlier on when I arrived here today. It's covered in the haze. I think that if you can see the Quantocks, the hills in front of us here at the commentary box, if you can see those, I mean, there's a little bit on the left towards us, so it looks like it might be some lower cloud. I don't want to say rain, but it looks like it's a little bit hazy over there. But once you can see those hills clearly, you know you're in for cricket sooner or later. In comes Davey, and left alone outside the off stump again from Tector, who just walks away from his crease for a moment, just to set himself as Davey walks back to the start of his run-up. The Saturday traffic in Taunton, we always keep an eye on it here from the box. We've got a good view of the Priory Bridge Road in Taunton. Doesn't seem to be too bad.
A lot of people stayed at home with the weather today, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of those days, isn't it? It's not been particularly nice. It does look a bit better tomorrow. It looks like we might get possibly a full day in tomorrow. In comes Josh Davey, and again another leave, this time good full length being bowled by Davey, but
Yeah, I think it's a good challenge for these guys. These two batters would have played a lot in our inter-provincial series back home, which is first class, but it's only 3-day cricket, so it's a bit of a challenge for these guys to step up to 4-day cricket and then step up again to 5-day cricket and show that patience with the bat that you don't necessarily have to show in the 3-day cricket, or you don't have the time to show as much in the 3-day cricket.
Yeah, you might think there's not a lot of difference between 3 and 4 day, but actually the time does make a big difference. In comes Davey, and that one attempted sort of defence away from his body there. I think he's practising one a bit closer to his body there, Shannon. But there was no edge. It did go past the edge of the bat, but didn't take a nick. So it went through to the keeper. No run, end of the over, and Ireland are 8 for no loss. Yeah, those 3-day games, you have to be thinking quite early on about declarations if you're trying to push for a win situation generally, don't you? Because you lose that day.
And it's the kind of thing that if there's a little bit of rain like today where you lose 2 sessions, then it really puts pressure on, and someone's going to make a bold move, or someone's going to put in a special performance to get a positive result. Yeah.
Gregory in then continuing from the pavilion end, defended on the back foot really from Shannon. No run from that one, and Somerset will be fairly pleased, I think, with what they've seen, because they did have a warm-up game against Worcestershire, which was supposed to be 2 days. It was reduced down to just 1 in the end because of the weather. And every single other pre-season game that Somerset were down for, which was several against Gloucestershire, Warwickshire, Edgbaston as well, everything else was cancelled. So Somerset will be very, very pleased that this game has so far been on. Looks like it will continue in the next couple of days as well. As Gregory in, and that one is sort of defensively driven, kind of pushed out onto the offside, and there's no run as it goes to the fielder at point. And there is 8 for no loss now, Ireland. Gregory just kicking away some of the. You can tell even from here it looks a bit wet. The turf on the pitch, even though it's been covered, that's still quite a lot of moisture underneath the pitch.
I think they've repaired a couple of footholds there, and it's obviously the spikes get wet coming in, and you landed on the same spot. It gets damp pretty quick there.
Yeah, you see it quite a dark colour. Not mud exactly, that's not fair on the groundsman, but much darker than the rest of the paler pitch, the drier pitch around it. In comes Gregory again, full this time, and that one defended away, pushed out into the onside. It's quite full up towards the batsman's toes, not quite Yorker length. Again, Lewis Gregory having a good look at his studs at the pitch as well. There's something wrong with the, well, it seems to be his studs he's checking. Maybe he's making a bit of mess on the
he's not sure about something. He's maybe lost a spike or something there.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's in pain. He's definitely looking at the underside. He's sitting down now, right by the stumps, and the umpire's given him one of the little keys to tighten his studs. So something's not quite right on the bottom of his shoe. We are half the way through his over, through his 3rd over, and so far he's leaked 3 runs from 2.5 overs, so tight bowling from Lewis Gregory, who is the captain of Somerset's T20 side this year after the departure of Jim Allenby, who was captaining up to this point. And things are ready now to proceed. Gregory in, and bowls shorter length. This one driven nicely by Shannon. That's nicely timed, Chris.
Yeah, just up on the back foot there, just rose with it nicely and punched away in front of square. No chance for the fielders, especially it's run across the square, the one dry bit of the outfield. So.
Yeah, nicely played. Driven for 4, so Shannon moves on to 6th. Ireland now 12 without loss. Of course, there have been in recent years a few Irish players who have worn the Somerset Dragon.
Yeah, I think George Dockrell, probably the most recent.
Yeah, and he was not named in the squad for this one, so is he left out for tactical reasons, or is he injured?
Not really injured. I think just we only brought one spinner with us who isn't playing. It's Andy McBride isn't playing.
In comes Gregory, and goals is defended by Shannon, no run.
Yeah, I think George was one of the guys that was with us in the qualifiers, so we had kind of 7 weeks away there with a lot of cricket, and same again before that we had a few weeks in Dubai with some ODI cricket as well, so it's sometimes a break's as good as anything for these guys.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have been keen to see some of his old teammates as well, but not to be. And then, of course, Kevin O'Brien played for Somerset in T20s 4 or 5 years ago. In comes Lewis Gregory, and that one is sort of punched from the back foot by Shannon, but straight to the fielder at mid-off, and there's no run. And that's the end of the over. 12 for no loss, as the police horses, I just noticed their van go past. So the horses who have been in Taunton for the day are now leaving, probably heading back to their stables. I'm not sure where those are. He's heading towards the motorway, put it that way. But
yeah, I think there's a young guy around at the minute as well, Fionn Hand. He's young Irish, good all-rounder, bowling all-rounder, and he's at school over here, and he's been involved a little bit with the academy over here, so potentially there's another one that could be linked with the Dragon.
Yeah, some great Irish talent around. In comes Davy then, continuing from the river end, and look close to being an edge there. Certainly Marcus Trescothick has got his hands over his mouth as he was watching that one, and the ball gets thrown to him by Steve Davies. That was not far away from the outside edge.
He just looked to move away a little bit and caught Tector out. Luckily missed the outside edge. Certainly very close.
Yeah, the slip cordon now has 4 members to it. Jamie Overton, Lewis Gregory, Marcus Trescothick and James Hildreth making up the cordon in that order from 4 to 1. Josh Davey into Tector, and that one again is moving away. There's some good movement there. Josh Davies finding it might be the overcast conditions, certainly using them to his advantage. Tector not quite seeing it, or if he is seeing it, deliberately playing within the line of it.
Yeah, it just seemed to square him up a little bit, that one.
It's good cricket from Somerset this at the moment, and Ireland doing well to keep out and stop the ball nicking to one of the slips or to the wicket keeper. Tector on 5, Shannon on 6. It's 12 for no loss, and this BBC commentary of Somerset against Ireland, pre-season friendly. Davey in and left alone outside the off stump this time by Tector, much more concerted in his efforts of leaving that one.
Yeah, that was definitely a confident leave.
It was, wasn't it?
There was an interesting thing we were talking about yesterday. I'm not sure whether it was mentioned, but Jack that's in bat now, Marcus Trescothick actually scored 100 against Ireland the year before Jack was even born.
We mentioned it was 95, I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
1995.
Gosh, so Marcus Trescothick was scoring 100 against Ireland before this current batsman was born. And here he is in the team today. Davey bowls, that one's defended on the front foot and out into the offside, but there's no run there. And that just shows you how long Mr. Trescothick's been plying his trade. That is a long old time. He's 42, or was 42 on Christmas Day last year, and is ready for, I think it's his 26th season.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
With Somerset. I mean, that is some service. It's his testimonial year this year, his second testimonial year. That says something when you manage to get to 2. Josh Davey then in again to Tector, who just flicks it off his toes into the mid-wicket area where it's nicely fielded. And there's no run from there. I think that might be Don Bess who's fielded that one at mid-wicket. Just having a look for him out on the field. Still hard to tell, lots of jumpers covering up numbers, and can't quite see who's doing what. In fact, the only one with the numbers out is the bowler, who's probably taken his jumper off to bowl, and Marcus Trescothick, who has his on a long-sleeved sweater. Davey in to Tector, and it looked again like that one's moved away. Certainly the slip cordon were hands on heads for Jamie Overton, and Steve Davies was happy to collect it, but would have been much happier had there been a nick on it, which there wasn't.
It's definitely a fantastic length and line there. It's kind of looks like it's pitching on off stump and just moving away. It's passing on the top of the 4th stump, and kind of Jack's got no option but to play at it. But as I say, it's just the 4 slips there waiting for the eggs to come through to them.
Like predators, is waiting. In comes Davey, and that one driven. Much better shot from Tector, but couldn't get it past the fielder at mid-off, who's Tom Abel, who makes a good diving stop, and that's the end of the over. 14 now for no loss. Ireland, who are batting in reply to Somerset's 342 for 5. The top scorer there was Eddie Byram, who finished 124 not out, who rode his luck at times yesterday. There was a couple of drops off his batting, which isn't it? That's the frustration, is that you drop a catch and then you get punished for the amount of runs. I think he was on 40 or something around that.
Yeah,
maybe even less
you
than
almost
that.
know he's going to go on to a big score, especially if it was a relatively easy chance, really. I think in the warmer month it might have been taken.
Yeah, definitely worth bearing in mind. I mean, look at the slip cordon now. You've got Trescothick and Hildreth both with both hands in pockets. It is chilly out there, to be fair, and that does make things harder. Gregory into Shannon, and it's defended. Somerset have been impressed so far with line and length, looking very disciplined.
Yeah,
not many loose balls.
I think it's a big difference to the start of our innings yesterday that we bowled and probably give away too many boundary balls and too many let-offs and weren't able to build the pressure. I think Trescothick in particular got off to a great start and got to 50 in no time because of that. Somerset have been much tighter and not giving anything away.
Trescothick will punish the wider balls. He loves, his eyes light up. That one down the leg side from Gregory, and there was an attempt to play it, and we saw a couple of those yesterday, didn't we? Catches down the leg side. It just, Anthony Gibson was mentioning a lot on commentary about how players, you often see them sort of waft at it, and that was almost one of those we saw there, and don't really commit to try and glance it as much. You know, you sort of see it hoping that they get something rather than really committing to a proper shot. That was Anthony's point that he was mentioning yesterday. It's
almost a side effect of all the tight wides and white ball cricket that you almost don't want to hit it because you know you're going to get a wide and an extra ball out of it.
Exactly. Gregory into Shannon and bowls. Left alone, big step forwards from Shannon. No run from that one. Thank you to Kartikeya, who's been in touch saying supporting Somerset from Singapore. Loving the commentary. Thanks very much for that one. And Jerry says, if you can't see the Quantox, it's raining. If you can, it's going to start raining soon. That's generally the rule here in the Somerset commentary box. Thank you very much for that one. At Charlie Taylor 4 on Twitter. You're listening to the BBC commentary of this pre-season friendly. Nice to be here. The first BBC commentary from England this summer. I say summer in inverted commas. In comes Gregory. And that one is defended on the back foot there. It bounced a bit awkwardly, and just as the ball has stopped dead at the popping crease of Shannon's crease there. So a good ball from Gregory. Just looked to make him play on the back foot, and didn't quite get to it.
I think Gregory's been a little bit shorter, hasn't he? He's kind of been back of a length and forced the batsman on the back foot. Davies probably been a little fuller and getting a little more movement because of it.
I would say Josh Davies probably looked like the more likely to get a nick, hasn't he? There's been a few really close ones. In comes Gregory, and that one down the leg side again. And it's just attempted shots, but nothing on it. It's tempting, isn't it, as a batsman? I think when you see one coming across you like that, you know there's not much field behind you to your leg side. You just feel like you want to bring the bat across, but
especially when there's the bowling well and there's a little bit of pressure building up, you quite often that's the best way to get a wicket is that one strangled down the leg side.
I wonder, and Anthony was mentioning this yesterday as well, how many bowlers do bowl for exactly that wicket. I mean, it's a risky thing, but you do see it happening twice yesterday out of the 5 wickets. In comes Gregory again. And that time it is better drive, just for a single probably island here. Yeah, that's pushed onto the offside, and it's picked up by Tom Abel at mid-off, and there's no single from that one, which takes Ireland to 15. And it'll be Shannon who keeps the strike. We mentioned Jack Tector. What do you know about Shannon? What's his background?
Yeah, so James was from Belfast. He's a captain of the Northern Knights team. He would have played for Ireland a fair bit in white ball cricket, especially a long time ago, and had a long gap before he made I think he came back in 2016, I think it was. He played in a couple of 2020 games, and he's kind of been back in and around the squads since then. He's definitely been the top performer for the Northern Knights in the Interprovincial Series in all formats in the last couple of years, and he's really earned his place back in that squad. So.
That'd be great to see the talent coming through, especially those that play cricket in Ireland. It's great to see them. Obviously, it's great to have Irish players in English competitions as well, but it must be nice to see that homegrown talent that's really got there through Irish cricket. In comes Davey, and that's defended by Shannon. No run, straight back to the bowler.
It's definitely the way now. All our squads would have maybe 1 or 2 guys that in Tim Murtagh as an example you mentioned, he would have been brought up cricket-wise in England, but everyone else would have been brought up in Ireland and played the cricket in Ireland for the most part. And I think that's a great thing for Irish cricket that we're able to produce that many players in Ireland and not necessarily just passport holders.
In comes Davey from the river end, and oh my goodness, he tried to slam his bat down, did Shannon, on that one as it went past his off stump. And Steve Davies behind the stumps looked interested. I wonder if there was a nick and it bounced on the way to Davies, or whether it was very, very close. Hard to tell from here, but the slips were very interested in that one. Good ball, that kept low.
Yeah, again, it's that full length again, just causing people a little bit of trouble here. You wonder the benefits of bowling full on a day like this with a new ball. It's going to just move around a little bit and just causing a lot more trouble than Gregory.
Yeah. Davey then reaches his run up and comes into Shannon, and that one is defended again on the front foot, and it goes down to Tom Abel at mid-off, who throws it back to Steve Davies, and there'll be a bit of polishing. I expect Gregory is the man who's allowed to take a look at it, who is, of course, bowling from the other end at the moment, so he'll be keen to keep an eye on it. We mentioned Irish talent there. Of course, the Irish talent that England fans will be most aware of is Owen Morgan, who, of course, is captain and one of the most explosive players in world cricket, really. When he gets going, he really does. We'll talk about that in just a moment after Davies in and bowls, and was it off his pads? Was it? It looks like it's his pads, yeah. And it's gone onto the leg side behind square, and he's picked up, and it's Tim Grünwald there, I think, who's thrown that one in at his backward square leg. Is the hope that players like Owen Morgan will stay in Ireland now, given the test status? Is that part of it?
Yeah, and I think it's a trend that's happened anyway. I think Ed Joyce came back, Boyd Rankin came back, and I think that the era of people going to England's kind of died off a little bit.
In comes Davey this time, and it's just punched into the leg side where there's no run. Bartlett doing the fielding there. Yeah,
I think previously in kind of in their youth there was no way to make a living and have a career in cricket unless you came over to England, and now the players can do that in Ireland, and they can get contracts, they can play in the interprovincial and first class cricket in Ireland. That hopefully it's going to keep everyone in Ireland and keep them playing for Ireland.
Which is great, because it must just be so frustrating to work hard on a player, and obviously there's a lot of input for Owen Morgan's development in Ireland. In comes Davey, and that one is pushed out into the onside. There's no run as it's well fielded, pretty much well fielded. There's a bit of a spill, but not enough to allow a single, and there's no run from that one. End of another Josh Davey over at 16 for no loss, because there's all that investment, isn't there, in players like Owen, and then he joins England because he got, there's, let's be honest, better opportunities for him at that point, wasn't there?
Absolutely, yeah, and there's a better opportunity to play for a county if you're declared for England as well. So it's always an interesting one. There's been a few over the years. I think in Ireland's first ever ODI, Ed Joyce played for England against his own brother, and one of Boyd Rankin's best, I think he got his best bowling figures in an ODI during the qualifiers, and he actually beat his previous best, which was for England against Ireland.
Very complicated. In comes Lewis Gregory, full delivery, and defended outside of his body, really, for Shannon. He sort of brings his bat away from his body to defend it. There's no run from that one. Yeah, it's just, I obviously not speaking from an Irish viewpoint, but just to have that frustration, and then to the even added insult to injury is coming up and playing against them, and then scoring runs and taking wickets against you as well. It must be the worst part of that. So, like you say, fingers crossed that stops happening now. And Gregory, that's a good length ball, and defended by Shannon. Yeah, it's like you say, Joyce and Boyd Rankin, good examples of players who have decided that actually Ireland is where they want to play their cricket, which is great.
It makes a big difference. Those guys coming back and just having that experience as well has benefited some of the younger players, and Ed Joyce in particular for the batters like Jack, who play on the same provincial side, he's had a huge benefit from Ed being back for the last year playing, and just being able to learn from him and open the batting with him.
Gregory then continuing from the pavilion end, bowling to Shannon, and he bowls now, and that one is has beaten the bat of Shannon outside the outside edge of Shannon's bat, but no run, no wicket, I should say, from it, as it didn't quite get the edge. Ireland riding their luck a bit here. Yeah, again, it's one full ball from Gregory, and it's just tempted that little kind of hanging the bat out. Not sure whether you need to leave it or whether you have to play at it. Good bowling from Gregory. That delivery in particular was a good length. And comes Gregory once more, and again another good delivery, Fuller on that one, and again just tempts the batsman into playing something, but not quite decisive in what to do. And again, there's no edge on this one. Goes through to the keeper. It's good to see Lewis Gregory bowling again. He's had back surgery over the winter. I think there was an injury, which had a fracture, which had happened a while ago and not been picked up, and had calcified. Quite a nasty back surgery that he had to go through. Gregory in and bowls, and that one will take the edge, will it? Or is it? They're appealing for an LBW. Not given. It certainly was. It certainly moved a long way. Yeah, I think perhaps the umpire Peveril there just looking at the movement of it. It was hard to tell. He brought his bat down with his close to his pads, but I think the ball did move in, not enough to persuade umpire Peveril to give that one out. First shout we've seen for an LBW, as most of these have been bowled just outside the off stump. But yeah, Gregory, a nasty injury that he's had, and actually had been affecting his performance, so he hasn't been able to properly bend his back when he's coming through to bowl. Here he comes now, and that one, another good delivery, which is defended into the offside. You can imagine the sort of a niggle which would never go away on the lower back.
It must always be a worry for the fast bowlers as well. If you start to feel something, feel a little stiff, and then it's always frustrating if sometimes a fracture like that can be so small or so well hidden that it just can't be picked up until it's too late.
Well, they picked it up on Lewis Gregory, and they feel he's likely to play a big part in Somerset season. They've named him as captain for T20s, and he did a good job of that when he was asked to do it in the quarter-final of the T20s last year at Trent Bridge. It was defeat to Nottingham. He went on to win the competition, but that was Gregory trying out the captaincy, and Davey that time down the leg side to Tector. The score 16 for no loss, no run from that one. As Davies collects it and throws it into the slip cordon. Yeah, so he's one to watch certainly for Somerset, Lewis Gregory, because he's come back from injury. Another one who's come back from injury, Jamie Overton, who I think the last competitive game he played was in June last year, and then had the injury on his back as well, and has been preparing through the winter, watching his twin brother play for England in tests. But he is playing today. Davey in, and that one is again a good length ball, but bat comes on it, a thick edge out into the offside, and there's one run as Tom Abel runs round from mid-off to do the fielding. Yeah, Jamie Overton, who said he couldn't watch Craig much in the Ashes because he doesn't have a BT Sports subscription. Right. And I wondered whether it might be worth him taking out one, even if it's just for a couple of months, but he said no. So brotherly love there between the two of them.
Maybe a little jealousy there that he wants to be out there in the sunshine as well. Yeah,
they're generally very, very good spirited between the two of them. There doesn't seem to be. I'm sure there is something, you know. It'd be hard not to. In comes Davey, and that one punched straight back to him, and well taken. It was off the bounce from Davey, but aware of it and instantly grabbed it, even though he's still halfway through his follow through from the previous delivery. Well done, Josh Davey. That possibly would have gone for 4. It came off quickly from the bat.
It was very straight. Yeah.
So
definitely seems to be the tactic to bowl full and try and tempt into those drives. A big gap on the offside between point and sort of a wide mid-off.
In comes Davey again from the river end. Bowls, and that one is coming off the pads. There was a defensive forward shot, had missed the bat completely. I think it came inside the bat that time and off the front pad, but not an LBW shout. So it looked like it was quite high to me. Not quite. Shannon and Tector both struggling to middle it, aren't they? Certainly it's moving, you'd say, and that probably is the overcast conditions. Somerset will be quite keen to use those to their advantage. Davey, a good mover of the ball with his pace. Wasn't part of the Scotland setup in the World Cup qualifiers. That one is a nice drive, and he's found the gap there, Shannon, with a fuller ball from Davey, and confidently driven to the boundary through the covers. Yeah,
just a little bit too much width there from Davey, and Shannon's took advantage of it. I think a little bit tighter into the stumps, and that kind of ball's the one that could get an edge, but just certainly far too wide, that one.
Yeah, and having said that the batsman struggling to middle it, that was a lovely shot. Sometimes you just need a little help from the commentators, and there you go.
It's definitely something we talked about, that the hardest part in conditions like this and then this time of year is going to be getting in, and then once you're in, you've got to make sure you stay in and capitalise.
Davey into Shannon, who's moved on to 11 now. The score 21 for no loss. So he'll be coming in next for Ireland, assuming it's the same plan as when you left
the same plan as when I left the dressing room would be for Andrew Balbirnie to come in next. He's batted at 3 for us for a while. Been batting in one-day cricket number 3 as well. He had a big double 100 last summer against the Netherlands in the Intercontinental Cup, and he's a guy who's been in great form. Had a tough time in 2016, had a bad hip injury and needed surgery and missed all of the season, but has come back real strong last year and continued that into 2018.
Yeah, good for him. So he'll be padded up and watching you think he'll feel nervous ahead of something like this? Chance ahead of the Test match to prove himself. Gregory in, and that one is defended into the onside.
I think he's a nervous number 3 anyway, in the sense that he's fidgety when he's sitting in there. I don't think he's actually nervous. I think he likes to be out there batting rather than sitting waiting to bat, which I think a lot of people will be like that. But I think he's fairly confident. He's had a couple of ODI hundreds in the last 3 months, and really looking forward to the Test match and making sure he's in there and scoring runs.
Gregory in and bowls to Tector, who defends it, goes out into the offside quite square, and it's Don Bess, I think, who fields that one. It is. And Don Bess, who's off the back of his maiden first-class ton, scored for the MCC. Not a bad way to do it. MCC on the crest, and in the West Indies as well.
That will be an enjoyable start of the summer out in Barbados.
Yeah, very nice.
Coming back with 100 already.
Very, very nice. Took plenty of wickets there as well, which is fantastic news for Somerset fans. In terms of Gregory, and that one has him on the pads. It looked way too high to me to really appeal for that one. But the umpire, I think, agrees with me. I think it must have been the height which stopped him from that.
I think Tector was leaving it on the height of the ball, and it's just nipped back in and caught him quite high above his pads, on the thigh pad maybe.
Yeah, there's definite movement there, but that one was pitched too short to really threaten the stumps. And umpire Peveril, I think, was pretty confident there for waving that one away. In fact, it was Gregory that was the main driver. There was not a huge appeal behind the stumps from that one. In comes Gregory again. And that time it's sort of squirts off the inside edge of that one. It's going to go to the boundary as well. It shows how short that boundary is. It wasn't really a drive at all. It's just a forward defensive, and it's just come off the inside edge and gone out into the leg side. Pretty square, and there's no fielders out there. And
it's always handy for the batters, just a few balls, a little bit of pressure. You know it's moving about, and just to get that one that's thick inside edge, but just squirts away for 4 on the short boundary and takes the pressure off now.
Tector into double figures. He's on 10. Ireland 25 for no loss. Do join in with us if you want to message in. It's at Charlie Taylor 4. I'm on Twitter. Lewis Gregory in, and that one is nicely played, and just sort of a half-cut drive, that one really through the covers. It's a nice shot from Tector, who's got consecutive 4s now, and that pressure which Somerset built dissipated quite quickly. And
that just goes to show that you know, Gregory's bowled very well, bowled a great line, a great length, and that ball gets squirted away for 4, and then he's bowled pretty much a wide half volley that's pushed away through that gap we were talking about with ease.
Yeah, nice shot, that one. Much more convincing than the previous one, which was sort of coming off an edge. That one was definitely planned and picked the gap. So Ireland 29 for no loss. Tector 14, and Shannon at the other end, off strike at the moment, but he's on 11. In comes Gregory, and bowls, and that one will come off square on the offside, and there's no run as it's picked up by Don Bess at point, and that's the end of the over. Gregory will be disappointed with those 2 4s in the middle of it. But,
particularly the second one.
Yeah, that was a disappointing ball as far as the pressure that had been building up before that point. But perhaps he felt with the ball before, perhaps it just had a
little bit extra effort into it,
absolutely, and that's that extra effort that sometimes can be the worst thing for a bowler, is you just, you lose what you were doing, and doesn't quite come off right, or the batsman's got an extra bit of confidence. Anyway, the slip cordon remains at 4 as Jamie Overton just takes his place alongside Lewis Gregory, Marcus Trescothick and James Hildreth. There's only one fielder out on the boundary still. That's sort of backward square leg, really, where Tim Grünwald's fielding. And Josh Davey comes in from the river end, and it looks like there's an edge, and Davey is celebrating, but not given. Movement. The slip cordon thought they had it. Davey was celebrating, and it was only a sort of cursory glance behind just to check that the umpire had given it out, and he hadn't.
Yeah, they don't seem too bothered now. I think there was again a lot of movement after the bat. He almost took it in front of first slip, Davies, but batsman seemed unmoved. Umpire wasn't interested, so maybe just trying to con the umpire a little bit with that one.
Well, they've brought in this rule, haven't they, about what do they call it, feigning a field, haven't they? Which is different to that, which is when you sort of pretend to pick up the ball even when it's rolling away somewhere else in the field. And Davey bowls down the leg side, no run there. Davies dives behind the stump to pick it up. So this is one of the new rules that has been brought in for this season. Is if you, it's when you're trying pretend to dive on the ball, isn't it?
Mock fielding.
Mock fielding, that's it.
Yeah, so it's basically a deliberate attempt to deceive the batsman when you're fielding. So you'd quite often see the guy chasing the ball might slide early, knowing that someone else is going to pick it up and pretend to throw it to stop the batsman running, and that now brings a 5-run penalty if you're deemed to have done it.
Yeah, it's a big change really. In comes Davey, and that one does get an edge, but it bounces on its way to fourth slip at Jamie Overton, who looks like that might have hurt his hand, the way he's now holding it behind him and flicked it, like you do when you're playing, sort of flick your hand out a bit, but obviously still quite painful in the cold weather. So I've seen fielders, actually it was quite a common thing, wasn't it really? Fielders did go for a while through just thinking it's a good way to try and stop a batsman from, if they're looking up and they see a fielder dive after a ball, it's hard to tell where that ball is really.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's sort of a new rule for this season, but for us we've been using it since November, so it's we're well used to it by now.
Of course, in comes Davey, and that one is on the pads, and there's a big appeal from Somerset, and it's given.
He's given.
Yeah, Shannon's been given there, and he takes a look back at the stumps before walking off. Does James Shannon, and that one did look like it was a bit straighter than some of the other shouts,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think James maybe looking back thinking he might have got outside the line, but not so sure. Big step forward, but not so sure it was a cross.
Yeah, it was a step forwards where it got him, so the umpire clearly confident enough it was going on to hit the stumps. We are just slightly off centre here, so it is hard for us to tell exactly where it's going, especially when they're bowling at us and there's a batsman in the way between us and the LBW shout, but yeah, it certainly looked like a straighter one. I don't think the batsman will feel he's got out to a howler there at all.
No.
I think it's a fair enough shout, and it is moving about. So I think when it's moving like that, you do feel there's probably one coming sooner or later.
I think that's it. Davies bowled very well with that ball that's moved away and trying to draw the eggs, and it looks like that one's just come back in a little bit and caught James out a little.
So James Shannon departs for 11s, and it's Ireland who are 29 for 1, and so it'll be Andrew Balbirnie. As long as things are as it stands when you...
yeah, it does look like Andrew coming out there.
There you go. So Andrew Balbirnie.
A handful of long sleeve jumpers for the fielders there from there.
Now, how cold is this in comparison to Ireland? Because this must be fairly similar to what you're used to.
It'd be fairly similar, yeah. It depends. It's quite open, especially the gap on this side there beside the pavilion, like you said, between the Atkinson pavilion and the dressing rooms. Yesterday brought in a cold breeze.
I remember watching. It was a game at Sussex. It was 2 years ago. Somerset against Sussex at Sussex. I was watching on the telly, and it looked absolutely freezing. It was a cold wind coming in from Hove, and Chris Gale's first game for Somerset in the 2016 season, and he looked absolutely frozen.
Yes.
And he got out not long after to a Timar Mills excellent cutter, which just was a brilliant fast ball, which Gale completely mistimed, and he looked like he just wanted to go home to the West Indies in that horrible cold British weather, probably wondering why on earth he'd ever signed to an English side when he could go around the world in all the hot places. But
it's definitely something teams, quite often we'd get a team tour in Ireland before they come to England for a test, and sometimes it catches them out a little bit.
Sure. In comes Davey then, and that one is defended by Balbirnie, not convincingly, came off an inside edge, and never any risk. There was a bit of a emphatic cheer or feeling from the slips, but really there's nothing going on in that ball. Yes, cricket is played in some very warm and hot places, but Ireland and England generally aren't those places.
We've had some good days, but you can probably count them on one hand.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. All you need is dry weather during the test. It doesn't matter how cold it is, because fans will turn out, I expect, in Ireland.
Yeah.
Whether it's freezing, could be minus numbers, and I'm sure that Ireland will still be there. Just want it to be dry, and that would be brilliant. When you don't want to have 5 days rained off, and that is the worry.
You do realise we get spoiled over the winter that we don't have to check out the window to see if it's raining, and you don't have to bring your jumper with you because you know it's going to be 25 degrees. We probably complain a little too much about the weather at home.
In comes Davey, and Balbirnie just taking it off his toes, and that's nicely timed, but found the fielder straight away, and there's no run from that one. It's the end of a successful over for Josh Davey, who's taken the first wicket here. Ireland 29 for 1. It's James Shannon who's departed for 11. Tector's not out in 14, and Balbirnie just joined the crease. He's yet to get off the mark now. So how do you think James Shannon will be feeling back in the pavilion after that innings?
I think he'd be disappointed naturally. He's spent a lot of time with us over the winter and not actually played in a game, so he came to the qualifiers and spent 7 weeks effectively as the reserve batter and didn't get a game, so it was a great chance for him to come here, and I know he was definitely raring to go and dying to spend a lot of time in the crease, so it'd be disappointing, but we can see from here how difficult the conditions are. The ball's moving around. He's got one that's come back into him after 5 or 6 overs of it going away from him, and these things happen, whether he was or wasn't inside the line. It certainly looked close.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you might have heard a bit of a small cheer. There's not many people in the ground, but that was a cheer as far as these people are concerned. It's because Jamie Overton has come on to bowl from the pavilion end, and that one is a bit of a loosener, short down the leg side, and not given as a wide, but certainly not, I'm sure, the ball he was planning on delivering there. First up, he just scuffs away some of the dirt and the grit from the footmarks, his delivery stride area and the pitch as he walks back down. Jamie Overton, like I said a bit earlier on, has been out since June last year with an injury, so great to see him back bowling, because he's just one of those players you can fire it down at around or the high 80s when he's at full pace. I don't know if he'll be doing that quite today. And he comes again, bowls again, pretty much a carbon copy of the previous ball, just a bit short at the moment down the leg side. Just needs to work on.
Doesn't quite have his line, does he?
No, and he again goes up to his delivery stride landing zone and is doing a bit of digging with his right boot.
Yeah, it's definitely not his fault. It's definitely the landing's fault.
Did you see there was a great one in the South Africa-Australia, the most recent test, where de Kock missed a stumping?
Was it a bee sting?
A bee was certainly, a bee was sitting on his shoulder, on his arm, higher up on his arm, and just at the crucial moment, he suddenly winced in pain as this batsman came forward and missed the ball, and he sort of then started flicking this bee off his arm. That will be the excuse used by wicketkeepers up and down the country, I think, at missed stumping chances. In comes Overton again. That's better. That's much better. It's a shorter ball, this time on the offside. Obviously, that bit of digging did its work.
Yeah, certainly a much better line, that one. Much better line.
That just caused Tector to think about it and then just bring his bat out of the way of it as it came through quite high up to him. But Overton will be much happier to have seen that one in the line, I'm sure he was thinking about. Jamie Overton, who, of course, his brother Craig played for England over the winter. But not only that, played every single game in all formats for Somerset last year, Craig Overton. In comes Jamie, and that one is, again, quite short. He's obviously not playing to the fuller line, which Gregory and Davey have been trying to find. That one's shorter again at the batsman, who manages to just fend it off into the leg side, really. That's all he could do. Nasty delivery, that, when you see that coming in at you.
He's quite imposing. Coming in, tall guy coming in like that, and he's just kind of setting his stall out early, especially to Jack here, the younger guy. He's just kind of saying, I'm going to bowl here and I'm going to bowl fast at you and do what you can.
James Shannon was out for 11 from 39 balls, including 2 fours in his innings. In comes Overton again. And that one, that was a late decision to move his bat out the way. I think the ball had actually gone past by the time Tector had decided to bring his bat out the way. As it was, it didn't matter because he missed the ball. But there's a bit of a pace down there, clearly, from Overton.
It certainly looks like it's moving as well a little bit. The good bit of work done on the ball there, and it seems to be working and swinging away a little bit. Yeah,
Somerset will be pleased. That's all the fans who are making a little bit of a noise, a little bit of cheering. They're happy to see he's become a bit of a talisman, Jamie Overton. He's quite often given the new ball when he's bowling here. He's been chosen as first change. Overton in and bowls full, and that one is just taken off the pads from the bat with Tector, and he plays it down to just backward of square leg, and has 1 run down to the boundary. Again, pace. Jamie Overton was ready to appeal had it not hit the bat. It's taken off his toes quite nicely, actually, considering the pace it's coming.
Yeah, I definitely think that would have been a very close appeal. Probably another wicket had it hit him in the pads.
Yeah, no, he's done well there, Tector, to not only fend it off, but to get a run from it as well. But means he keeps the strike. He might actually be quite willing to have a ball or 2 off strike now, but such is the way of cricket.
Looks like we might have another change at the other end as well here now.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It does look like it's going to be Tim Grünwald by the looks of it, who will take up the bowling. Tim Grünwald, who signed from Derbyshire a few seasons ago for Somerset, he's improved actually in that time, and he's not a young bowler, but he's certainly seen his tally improve in that time. He's a very talented bowler, plays in all formats for Somerset very well as well. He's someone who Somerset have come to rely on, and Somerset fans know they can rely on for at least holding up an end. If he's not attacking, he's consistent, and will be.
Sometimes that's just as important, especially in red ball cricket.
And when you've got someone like Jamie Overton on the other end, who's focusing on pace and not necessarily line in length, but just bringing in the pace. Here comes Grünwald now, and that's just onto the leg side really, and tucked down to the boundary fielder backwards of square on the leg side. But Jamie Overton, who comes in and bowls at full tilt, and you've got Tim Grünwald the other side, who is accurate and quick as well. Not slow, but certainly not in Jamie Overton's league. Yeah, he's 34, Tim Grünwald, so certainly not in the start of his career, put it that way. But a regular performer for Somerset. In again outside the off stump, left alone by Balbirnie. Yet to get off the mark, Andrew Balbirnie. And how much do Ireland see this game as the chance to show themselves before the test? Do you think this is a big one for them? Yeah,
I think it is. I think there's more so for the guys who are maybe on the fringes of the team, that it's a chance to really show. And I think batting wise, we've got a pretty solid lineup, so it's a good chance for guys to get some runs and show that.
In comes Grünwald, and that one just played out into the onside by Balbirnie, but no run.
I think the seamers is probably the main one, that Tim Murtaugh's not here, which is given an extra chance for someone else to play. We've got Craig Young, Peter Chase, Barry McCarthy and Boyd here, and we've probably got three seamer spots with Kevin O'Brien and Stuart Thompson vying for an all-rounder spot that bowls a bit of seam, so it's a great chance for one of those guys to step up and really take the chance.
Grünwald in again, and this one is in front of his pads. He's playing it there, Balbirnie, and it defends into the offside, but no run again.
Yeah, it's one of them things that it's as much as it's a big game and it's 5 weeks from the test, it really is the first chance to get out, and for guys to bowl 2 spells in a day and maybe bowl 15 overs, 16 overs in a day, as opposed to just bowling the 10 that you'd bowl in a white ball game. But they put pressure on themselves to perform.
Grünwald into Balbirnie, who left it alone. It wasn't a million miles away, but pretty confident of where his stumps are. Ireland 31 for 1 now in reply to Somerset's 342 for 5 declared. If you just joined us, it's been raining most of the day. In fact, we only really got to play cricket at 4 o'clock today, so we missed the first 2 sessions. Somerset declared on their overnight score of 342 for 5. Eddie Byram finished 124 not out, so one of his best results in a Somerset shirt. That one is driven, it's come out on edge on the offside, going quite square. There was a diving stop in front of the boundary, so there won't quite be a fall there, but they've run 2, and Ireland moved to 33 for 1. Balbirnie's off the mark, he's on to 2 at the end of the over. And that will just please Andrew Balbirnie. It's always nice, isn't it, to see some runs next to your name?
Yeah, it's the longer you go without getting off the mark as well, the more you start to worry about it. So it's always nice to get it away and get moving, get the score ticking over a little bit.
You're listening to the BBC coverage of this game between Somerset and Ireland. It's a pre-season friendly. We're on the BBC Sport website and the BBC Sport app. In around 10 minutes time we'll be on 5 Live Sports Extra as well. Thank you to Darcy, who's been in touch. That's listening in from Western Australia. I expect the weather is slightly different, well, apart from it's night time over there, isn't it? So very different over there than it is here. Jamie Overton will start another over from the pavilion end, and that one is a bit fuller. Has he glanced it down the leg side? It was close, but not close enough for Ben Peverill, the umpire, to give it out. Darcy said, I'll be interested to hear whether Chris Siddle, who's the team manager of Ireland, who's with me on commentary, whether Chris thinks Paul Stirling opens of bat 6 in Test cricket.
Well, he's down about 5 here today. I think it's going to be a big decision for Ireland to make. We've got William Porterfield, Ed Joyce to come back in from this squad. And it's going to be an interesting decision on who bats where, and Paul's one of those big decisions. That does he bat 5-6 or does he open the bat?
Regular performer for Middlesex, Paul Stirling. In comes Jamie Overton. That one outside the off stump, left alone, a bit too wide to force anything from Jack Tector, who's on 16 at the moment.
Yeah, Paul's definitely shown he's got that explosive power, and he's got that ability to do almost what Trescothick did yesterday. And if there is a little bit of loose ball, and he can take the game away from someone very quickly. But he's also batted a lot at number 4 and 5. 5 and 6 at Middlesex, and he's got that ability to come in and bat and do the same to the second new ball when maybe bowlers are a little more tired. They've got some overs in the legs, and he could really, it could take you from 300 for 4 to 360 for 4 in no time in that period of the game. So it's a big decision, and thankfully I don't have to make it.
See how he does. I mean, we probably won't see him today. I'll say that, and
Well,
Ireland will lose 3 or 4
yeah.
very quickly. Probably won't see him today. Probably tomorrow. In comes Overton, and that one is well defended. In fact, it's come off quite a thick edge. It's gone square, heading towards the boundary. Not going to get there though. It's picked up. Oh, just about. There's a bit of a slip. I think is that Don Bess who's just looking around and trying to work out. I think he was surprised by how close the boundary was.
Yeah, I think it's the boundary rope's kind of well hidden on top of some old practice wickets there, and I think it's blended in nice. He didn't quite realise how close he was.
It's right where the marquee was, which Somerset have been using instead of a trip to Spain, which is what they've done the last few seasons. They've stayed in Somerset and batted in a heated and dehumidified marquee, which is what those marks are out on the turf there. And you can see they use wickets.
Yeah.
Which are quite dry out on those ones. You could practice a good bit of spin bowling out there, which I'm sure Don Bess and Jack Leach will be looking at. In comes Overton and off his toes nicely, and I just wondered if there was a
I think that's just
catch
bounced
opportunity. Yeah, it sort of flicked it off his pads. I don't think it bounced straight from the bat, did it? It must have just fallen short of, is it Byron there? I think it might be Byron. Or Bartlett there.
Square leg umpire's right next to him and kind of shook his head straight away as if to say no.
And to be fair, the fielder didn't celebrate at all, so I think it's Bartlett. It is Bartlett there, who's right next to the square leg umpire. Who, well, it must have been close.
Yeah.
I think it must have dropped just short. He must have picked it up pretty much on the bounce there. So a chance, but not quite. I think it would have been terrific to have the reactions to jump forwards and grab it. It's difficult when it's coming at you and just falling short. Overton in again then, and this time that one's down the leg side. There's no touch on it, and Tector gets through that one. So 18 is Tector. Balbirnie's on 2, and Ireland are 35 for 1. The score that Somerset made 342 for 5. It's Charlie Taylor 4 on Twitter. That's Charlie with an IE if you want to send in a message. If you've got a question for Chris from Cricket Island. Is that Cricket Island or Island Cricket?
It's
which should we say? Cricket Island.
Cricket Island.
There we go. From Cricket Island, and do get in touch with us at Charlie Taylor 4. I'm sure he can ask some questions of Chris. It's lovely to have you with us in this early part of the season. Jamie Overton in, and bowls a shorter ball, and Tector ducking out the way of that. It was a bit shorter, or a bit lower than I thought he thinks it was going to be, so he ended up sitting down as he ducked underneath it. It came a bit lower. Overton's not happy though, is he, with the pitch there? He's continually working, and actually James Hildreth told him to move away from the pitch there. Yeah, I think he's pat on the back.
He's kind of been a little erratic with his line there, especially his length's been fairly consistent, but he's been short most of the time, but quite a few balls down the leg side there, and I think he's just trying to make sure everyone knows that it's the wickets, and his landing of his front foot isn't quite right.
Well, he must put a heck of a lot of pressure on that front foot. You know, he's he's 6'5". He's well built, and he comes in and has a lot of pressure landing on that patch. So in comes Grünwald from the river end, and that one just pushed onto the leg side, backwards a square, nicely done on the 45, and that one picked up and thrown in. That one is Byram there, actually, who's fielding that one. But yeah, so you can understand if he is just losing a bit of grip there, it probably makes quite a big difference when you're trying to bowl a ball at 85, 90 miles an hour. And I think he is, by looking at it, it looks quick to me. I don't think he's holding back much.
Yeah, he certainly looks a little quicker than Gregory and Davey were bowling early doors. Yeah,
and that's what he brings to this side, really. Grünwald in and outside the off stump, a shorter delivery, which is left alone by Jack Tector. And score 36 for 1. There's a single off that last ball, which pushes Balbirnie on to 3.
It's definitely a very different start to Somerset yesterday.
Yeah, well, Trescothick made hay while there were some few loose deliveries from Ireland, and that just pushed Somerset. Well, I think there was one point where Trescothick was on about 60 and Byron was on about 15. It just showed the difference between the two openers. In comes Grünwald, that one onto the pads of Tector, but pushed away into the leg side. Fairly square, no run. Picked up by Don Bess. And it's 36 for 1, Ireland in reply. But yeah, that was a quick scoring session. The first hour of the day yesterday was very, very quick.
I think it was possibly a little bit bowlers focusing too much on getting a wicket rather than building pressure, and that told with the loose balls.
In comes Grünwald, and that one is left alone. Yeah, and I suppose there's differences there, isn't there, between ODI cricket and 4-day cricket, is the pressure and the nuances of that pressure. Whereas in ODI it is attack, isn't it, for pretty much for 50 overs. Okay, there's some periods of defending, but... Yeah.
I mean, the real key in the 50-over cricket that obviously we've been playing a lot of is you've got to get wickets. If teams are going in the last 20, 25 overs with 7, 8 wickets left, then they're going to score a lot of runs. So.
Yeah, you have to take that attacking initiative early on in ODI cricket. In comes Grünwald, and that one just from a leading edge pushes out into the offside. Abelfield's no run. Yeah, I suppose, and that pressure actually is what brings you wickets in 4-day cricket, isn't it? Whereas
I think we showed that before lunch. That Peter Chase and Barry McCarthy bowled a good spell, and Peter Chase in particular bowled a great kind of 3 or 4 overs, and Barry backed him up, and Barry ended up picking up the 2 wickets in the same over just from that pressure of 5 or 6 overs with less than 10 runs.
Absolutely. In comes Grünwald, and that one again played onto the leg side backwards of square, and Eddie Byron keen to pick it up. There's a single off that one, 37. I make that 4-1. Yep, the scoreboard ticks over, and it'll be Tector who keeps the strike. Balboni not getting much of the strike there at the moment.
No, he's not. No, he won't mind. He's very calm once he's out on the wicket, very relaxed, and you can see that in the way he plays. He tends not to feel the pressure as much, or he deals with the pressure very well. Even if the teams are keeping bowling tight, he'll find a way to get off strike and keep things calm.
Yeah, you can absolutely see he's a calm head.
Yeah.
In the you can just tell, can't you? How people are around the wicket. He's pretty calm out there, which I'm sure he would be with all that experience under his belt.
Yeah.
ODI cricket and hundreds and double hundreds.
Played for Middlesex for a lot of years as well.
Yeah. So I'm sure he's played here a few times before. Overton into Tector, left outside the off stump, no run from that one, and the score 37 for 1. We've had 16 overs so far from 4 bowlers. The first opening partnership was Josh Davey and Lewis Gregory. Davey with the 1 wicket so far, and both of those were changed at the same time to Overton from the River End, and Grünwald from Overton from the Pavilion End, and Grünwald from the River. And Somerset continuing here to look to build pressure. I think it's that difference, isn't it? They are finding a good line and length, and that one has squirted out to gully. Well, that looked like a great catch. I'm thinking it might just have touched the floor, or not quite.
No, I think it's just come out of his hand there.
It would have been a stunning catch, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's diving full length down to his right and caught it very, very low, but it seems to have just bounced out when he's landed.
A thick edge from the batsman, just very, very low, one-handed. I think it's Lewis Gregory there. Well, that would have been a fabulous catch. Really, really good. And you can watch the live stream of this game as well as listen to the commentary. And I wonder if that might just have been out of the camera shot, but it would have been a very, very good catch nonetheless. And Overton in again, straighter ball, this time at the batsman. Tector defends, and there's no run. So a couple of catching opportunities, just evading the fielders, just bouncing in front of them, or just coming out their hands with a difficult chance. You wouldn't say that either of them really were 100%.
That one was certainly the type of catch you'd run off to see the analyst to see if you were in shot.
Absolutely, quite right too, Lewis Gregory there, just missing out on that one. So Jamie Overton then will continue. He's halfway through his 3rd over, and he's bowling from the Pavilion End to Jack Tector. He's in, and that's come out of the hand a bit early, I think, for Overton. It's come through as a full toss. Don't think it'd be a no ball. No, it's fine. It was underneath the waist high, but surprised, I think, everyone. Tector just backed away from it. It was outside the off stump, and Jamie Overton, who has got a mark of mud right down his right leg, it just shows that it's a very wet playing field, but they are playing, which is great. You're listening to the BBC commentary of this pre-season friendly between Somerset and Ireland, and Somerset made 342 for 6 yesterday. Eddie Byron 124 not out. Trescothick made 75. Lewis Gregory was 54 not out. In comes Jamie Overton and bowls that one high up, and it's a well defended bouncer from Tector, who just stood up to it. No run from that one.
You can definitely see that little bit extra pace that Overton's got there. Just make those short balls a little more threatening. Just rush the batsman a little bit.
Yeah, it certainly does. And Ireland now 37 for 1 in reply to 342 for 5. Tector 19. Balbirnie 3. The man out, James Shannon, who made 11 before he was given LBW to Josh Davey. I'm Charlie Taylor, with me Chris Siddle from Cricket Ireland. In comes Jamie Overton. That's a fuller ball that we've seen from him, and nicely played, defended on the front foot by Tector, who survives that over. 37 for 1.
You can definitely see that little bit of shape in the ball when it is picked up from Overton. Going to be a risk for the batsman. He's going to bowl short, then throw in the odd full one that's just swinging away a little bit and try and tempt that edge.
Yeah, and frustrating when you put in that fuller delivery and it's not quite, doesn't get you the reward that you're hoping for, and the batsman spots it. But Ireland, they're playing quite well. I think they're sort of seeing off, aren't they, at the moment? It's a question of just staying in, because there's some pretty hostile bowling at the moment. Grünwald probably the one you'd target out of the 4 so that we've seen so far, I think. Grünwald in now, and that one is, I think he's got an edge on that one and just sent it downwards, hasn't he? Just angled his bat down and just rolled off, but not enough to get slips interested, nowhere near them.
It's always difficult, this situation as well, coming in with, you've only got one session, the conditions really heavily favour the bowlers, and you almost don't want to, you don't talk about a score, you talk about just getting through this session, then come back tomorrow morning and start again. Yeah,
forecast fairly good for tomorrow. There's still a lot of cloud around. That's Grünwald bowling that one outside the off stump, left alone by Andrew Balbirnie, who's on 3. So this is a pre-season friendly, although there is still a good competitive edge to this, just because Somerset are closing in on the start of their season, and Ireland, of course, who become a test nation. Well, you have test status at the moment, but you're not a test nation as such yet, because you haven't played a test match. But just 5 weeks until that happens. A very exciting day in the history of Irish cricket. Grünwald in, and that's defended nicely. Textbook defence shot from Balbirnie on the front foot, and there's no run. Somerset, who would be very, very keen to improve on last season in the Championship, where they scraped survival on the last day by 1 point.
It's definitely a very topsy-turvy few years in the Championship, isn't it? The teams come in and seem to do really well one year, then struggle the next.
Yeah, well, Middlesex and Somerset, both of those, aren't they? And that one's down the leg side from Grünwald, who apologises to his... I think it's to the wicket keeper rather than to the batsman. I think that's obviously not what was planned, and perhaps they had a plan for that ball, and Grünwald didn't quite get that right. But yes, it was Middlesex champions and Somerset narrowly missing out, finishing second in that year, 2016, and then the following year, the two of them finishing next to each other in the table again, but this time 6th and 7th, and of course 7th place going down. In comes Grünwald, and that one quite well wide, but not given as one. Left alone, no run. Yeah, it was, and of course the two playing each other the last game was. I remember looking at the fixtures at the start of the season of 2017 and thinking, well, the two teams that finished first and second are playing each other last.
You think
that's the decider, yeah. Little did we know that a few months later we'd be talking about the two teams in a relegation scrap. In comes Grünwald, left alone outside the off stump. No run there. Score 37 for 1. Grünwald getting a maiden there. He's bowled 3 overs, 1 maiden, 5 runs, no wickets, and a bit of a conflab in the middle between the two batsmen. Now, how do you think Ireland will be feeling? 37 for 1 and seeing off the new ball as it's still moving a bit?
Be pretty happy. The 1 wicket's obviously disappointing, but we wouldn't be too worried about the score at this stage. Like we said there, we want to get through the rest of today and come back and start again tomorrow, and almost whatever we get today is a bonus that we just take off the 360 that Somerset got. So it's really just making sure that there is just a 1 wicket down by the end.
Jamie Overton will continue with the ball from the pavilion end. He starts his run up. Jamie Overton, who's been injured for a long time. Somerset fans pleased to see him back in the shirt, and that one is again another shorter delivery. It's played out square onto the leg side, no run. We're at the county ground in Taunton, which is still very much wintry. As we look out, the trees are very much bare, and still pretty chilly out there. Hands in pockets and folded arms in the slip cordon.
Lots of jackets in the crowd.
Woolly hats on, and yeah, still feels a bit wintry here. And winter just feels to have gone on so much longer than normal. Into March, we were still having heavy snow towards late March, which very unusual in such a low-lying area. Somerset, Overton in that, another short one, and had to play it high. Did Tector, but he's played it well. No run.
You always get some interesting questions as a manager, and the one I had yesterday morning was one of the players strolled across and says, "Do you mind if we wear a beanie in the game today?" This guy goes, "Well, it's not that cold yet."
Are there rules around when you can wear beanies or not?
They are allowed to wear them, but I think the preference would be to wear a cap.
Yeah. I was going to say, you've been sporting your Cricket Ireland beanie, which is
yes, I've
on the
got
desk
mine on,
here.
definitely.
Yeah. When you're not a player, you can get away with that sort of thing. Flouting the beanie rules as the team manager. In comes Overton from the pavilion end, and that one slightly fuller, and it bounces twice actually before it goes through to Davies. It kept low. Left outside the off stump by Tector, who's very happy to leave. He's pretty comfortable with not getting bat on ball, isn't he? Just leaving it alone.
Confident leaving. He'd be a patient lad, so he'd be more than happy to spend the 2 hours there and finish on 25, 30 not out. He wouldn't be someone that would be worried about that. He'd be looking to bat time rather than runs.
Well, I'm going to quickly look at the forecast now, but I think there's good possibility that we'll get a good day's play in. Hello to the 5 Live Sports Extra listeners who've just joined us. In comes Overton, and that one's down the leg side, and Davies has to make a diving stop. It's given as a wide, actually, that one, and it's well kept by Davies, but it was pretty wide and short from Overton. An ugly ball.
Yeah, that one was definitely came out the hand wrong.
Yeah, and again he's digging away at the where his delivery stride is landing.
Just trying to make that. There's obviously a little hole there. We saw it, and the groundsman repaired it, but he's just trying to make it as wide as he can. So he's landing instead of landing in a narrow hole, he's trying to land in a kind of wider, smoother one.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, we're live from Taunton for this pre-season friendly of Somerset against Ireland. Jamie Overton in and bowls, and that one is shorter, better line that time, and batsman ducks underneath it. I'm not sure he needed to. I think he probably could have stood up and it would have missed him, but he's just getting out of the way. I'm not quite sure where these are moving to. We have seen movement from a couple of the other bowlers as well, so Tector just ducking out the way. Overton bowling in the quickest of the 4 that we've seen so far, which is good news for Somerset, having been injured since June last year was the last time he played competitively for Somerset. So
I do wonder if he's just going to throw a full one in. There's 2 balls left in the over. He seems to be very short to Tector in particular, and I wonder if he's just going to try and throw in that full one. He's going to try and move it away.
Here he comes now up to the umpire. Bowls, and that one is fuller, and it's wrapped on the pads, but it's too high, I think. There's a half-interested shout from behind the stumps, but Jamie Overton never started an appeal, so nothing there. I think that looked high to me. It didn't look like a bad line, but I think the height was too much, just too short from Overton to really trouble the umpire into making a decision. And he's just put a bit of sawdust on his run-up there just before that delivery, so it is a wet outfit, just beginning to, you can see some muddy marks as the footsteps of these bowlers running in from the pavilion end, closer end to us where we are, and bowls again, this time defended quite high up again, a shorter delivery here. Jamie Overton definitely going for a much shorter line than we've seen from the other bowlers. Hasn't worked for him yet, really. They're not scoring loads of runs off him, but he's not taking wickets, and not really forcing mistakes just yet. The only one really is that catch, which didn't quite carry.
I think he's certainly not as threatening as Davy was when at the start, Davy and Gregory. Yeah,
Davy looked the most likely of the 4. In fact, he is the only one of the 4 to take a wicket so far with an LBW against Shannon. Do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. At Charlie Taylor 4 on Twitter. Grünwald will continue from the river end. That one punched down the ground into the onside and picked up by mid-on. And there's no run from that one. And there's a few people in the crowd. There's 2 people in the microscopic stand. There's a couple wandering around the edge by the Gimblet Hill, not far from the church here. A fairly famous view of the church next to the Taunton ground. Quite a few in the pavilion next to the Andy Caddick pavilion. In comes Grünwald, and that one's straight and defended. It's down the pitch, no run there. Yeah, the Ondaji stand has got a few in it. I can't quite see beneath us. I imagine there's a fair few.
There was a few underneath, under the media centre as I came round.
Yeah, in fact, that's probably the busiest part of the ground, just underneath us. This into its second season now of use, this pavilion, which is gives us a great view here of the cricket. Really is a good view. And comes Grünwald, and that one outside the off stump, left alone, not giving us a wide, although it didn't look too far away from being one. Grünwald not quite found his line, has he? He's
no,
sort of all over the place, straight and wider ones. And
I think the other three you've kind of seen they've been consistent and had a set plan. Whereas Grünwald seems to be some full, some wide, some straight, some short, some all over the place.
I mean, which not necessarily a bad thing. I think it'll be difficult for a batsman not knowing what's coming next as much as a bowler. So only comes again. That one is cut away through the gap between Gully and the point fielder, and that's gone for 4. Lovely shot, lovely timing on that one for Balbirnie. Moves on to 7. That one just backwards of square on the offside. Lovely shot, and I think that might be Bartlett there. He's just sitting, having dived. I can't tell if he's injured or he's back on his feet now. So nothing too serious. On that when he dived, it must have been close. In fact, it's Don Best there who was made a good diving effort, but nowhere near stopping. That's a really nice timed shot, and that's patience from Balbirnie, because he's been around for a while to get to his 7. And score moves on to 42 for 1, and in comes Grünwald, and punched into the onside down to mid-on. There's no run there from Balbirnie. So Ireland are exactly 300 behind now, and 1 wicket down. Although it is a friendly, like we said, there's this sort of competitive edge, a good chance for all these players to show what they can do, and 12 players playing, 12 bowlers, or at least they're playing 12 so that different bowlers can have a go. So it's obviously not quite first class in that respect, and push down to mid-on again from Balbirnie, who's finished the over with a dot ball, and that is 42 for 1.
I don't think there'd be a player on either team who likes to lose. So
no, that's true.
It definitely, even if it is a friendly, it does. I know myself. I don't like losing at all, and I don't even go onto the field. So there's definitely that edge in the game, and nobody wants to be the one that goes for a lot of runs or ends wicketless. So it's definitely gives an edge to friendlies like that, and I suppose that's how these guys make it to be professional cricketers, because they have that edge and they have that willingness to win. So
what was it like then? What was the mood in the camp like after the defeat in the final of the World Cup qualifiers against Afghanistan?
We actually flew home with Scotland on the same flight, and I'd say it was a very quiet flight home compared to normal.
In comes Overton from the pavilion end, and that one again shorter at the batsman and defended.
I think what was so hard about it for a lot of us was when the West Indies beat Zimbabwe, we almost kind of, you had that feeling that Zimbabwe were going to beat UAE, and it was going to be hard. Both us and Afghanistan kind of felt like our game was going to be the dead rubber at the end, and then all of a sudden the day before it became the biggest game either of us had ever played. And
was it the UAE who had beaten Zimbabwe? No one saw that coming, really.
Yeah, it was first time UAE had actually beaten a full member, and it was a fantastic performance from them, and they really handled the pressure so much better than Zimbabwe did on the day, and
well, that was it, wasn't it? Zimbabwe on a home turf could have qualified for the World Cup, and they weren't able to do it. Overton in that one, Fuller, and it's just beaten the bat of Tector, who tried to defend, but just beaten. It goes through to the wicket-keeper. No run, 42 for 1. Ireland replying to Somerset's 342 for 5 declared.
It's always interesting that teams like the UAE and PNG and some of the other teams that play at that level below, in UAE in particular in World Cricket League 2, had to qualify for the qualifiers, and they were 1 innings away from losing their ODI status and not getting there, and the month before they'd been through that pressure, that situation, and having to finish a game off, and I think that really showed in that game.
In comes Overton and bowls shorter again at the batsman, and defended, goes out square on the offside, no run. I'm sure they've picked up plenty more fans in Afghanistan now, because it gave them the chance, clearly. I mean, that was a story, wasn't it? Losing the first three games in the qualifiers, and managed to scrape through. It's this incredible story.
If Hong Kong had beaten Nepal in the final group game, then Afghanistan would have been out.
Wow.
And Hong Kong would have gained ODI status or retained their ODI status. And as it happens, Nepal won that game. Afghanistan qualified for the World Cup, and Hong Kong lost their ODI status. So
Gosh, it seems such a shame, doesn't it, to
yeah.
have your ODI status at that sort of mercy of
away,
games like that. Yeah. In comes Overton, and a similar ball, and this time down the leg side. And there was a bit of a waft of it from Tector, who he's been on 19 for a while now. Perhaps that will start. I know you said he's patient, but perhaps once you're on the score for a long time, it just starts to play in your mind, doesn't it? So Ireland then missing out, and was it that element because it was caught by surprise? I suppose that in fact it wasn't a game that you were expecting to have.
No, and I think both teams prepared very well, and I think we were very, very close. And there was one ball in particular that was probably a turning point that changed the game.
Overton in, bowls to Tector, who just brings that one down quite late on it, but bats it down, and there's no run.
Yeah, I think both teams played exceptionally well for the conditions. It was an old used pitch. It'd been a long tournament, and the pressure on both teams to perform and to win that spot. And I think Ireland had batted well, got a good score, and I think we probably did the right thing to bat first, and then Afghanistan got a great start, but Ireland had really fought their way back into the game and built a lot of pressure. And Ashgar Staniskai just hit a six that literally went to maybe 3 or 4 inches above George Docker's head on the line. And
those small margins make huge differences, don't they? In comes Overton to Tector, and again he's beaten the bat, but there's no edge, and that's the end of the over. Ireland 42 for 1.
Yeah, I think if that six had dropped a yard inside the rope and George had caught it, George was on as a subfielder, and if George had taken that catch and we got that wicket, I think we probably would have won that game. And as it happens, it went for 6, and Ashgar then hit another 6 the next over, and they got well ahead of the rate and finished it off. And it's amazing that there was a World Cup spot at stake, and you can almost take it back to that one ball and say.
So many times, isn't it, in cricket? You look back at just one ball that makes all the difference. And even in games that last for 4 or 5 days, one ball can just have that.
And we can look back. We could and should have beat Zimbabwe. We could and should have beat the West Indies as well. And if we'd won one of those games, we would have been going to a World Cup, and that last game wouldn't really have mattered. So it's easy to almost look at that one ball, and yes, I think that would have changed that game. But we probably the position we're in, we probably should have beat the West Indies, and that would have got us through.
Yeah, and then just a couple of days before that was Scotland with their chance to beat the West Indies. I mean, it was so close for 2 of the home nations. Were so close. It was agonising to watch, really, even from a neutral stand. In comes Van Meekeren, who's a changed bowler, taking place of Tim Grünwald at the river end. There's going to be 2 off this one. It was pushed into the onside by Balbirnie, and the fielder runs around from mid-on to collect it.
The Scotland game was tough, and
because there was rain, wasn't it, which got in the way there as well.
We were maybe a mile away from the ground in the hotel, looking out, going. You could see the groundsman preparing the covers on the telly, and we're looking out the window thinking, it's not going to rain here. All of a sudden, there was a huge downpour, but it was tough to take for them. I've been so close, and then
you think you go to Africa to play cricket, and you think you can at least expect there to be some dry weather. In comes Van Meekeren, and it's driven beautifully square from Balbirnie. That's gone to the boundary for raced away. That one, lovely timing from Andrew Balbirnie, who's moved on to 13 now with that one. The score moves on to 48 for 1.
I think Balbirnie knows Van Meekeren quite well. Knows what to expect.
Yeah, that's Van Meekeren, of course, a Dutch international who's played at quite a few of the T20 leagues this year as well. I think he was out in Hong Kong and various others as well. So Van Meekeren, who certainly had plenty of cricket over the winter, comes in again this time to Balbirnie, who's very happy to watch that one go past his off stump for no run. Goes through to the wicket keeper. Ireland 48 for 1. If you are just joining us, Somerset made 342 for 5 yesterday. They declared overnight, well actually they declared this afternoon after all the rain, and the first ball was bowled around 4 o'clock this afternoon today. So after Somerset declared, Ireland came out. They're 48 for 1. The man out, Shannon, who made 11 from 39 balls. In comes Van Meekeren again to Balbirnie down the leg side, and there's an attempt at a leg glance, but again misses it. And the keeper spills it slightly, but not enough to tempted the batsman into swapping ends. It remains 48 for 1. So do you end up in a position like that supporting Scotland? You say you're watching at the hotel? Because I don't know, I can't remember what
well, in that situation, I think we wanted the West Indies to win. So it's Scotland winning would have made it tougher for us to get through. So
tough, isn't it? It all depends on points. And
yeah, that's it.
It's a complicated system actually. What they've got for the qualifiers. In comes Van Meekeren to Balbirnie, who drags his bat out of the way of it. It's a shorter delivery from Paul Van Meekeren. Yeah, there's sort of a scores or the points which you scored against the higher nations and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's two groups of 5, and then the top 3 from each group go into a Super 6 with your results against the other 2 teams that qualified carrying through, including your run rate. And then once you get there, it's always. I mean, Scotland and Zimbabwe tied their game in their group. And
yes,
both
they did,
carried
didn't
through
they?
the single point. So.
Gosh. Yeah. In comes Van Meekeren, and that one is defended, but gets an inside edge, and it'll run out into the onside, just backwards a square for a single. Yeah, typically in cricket fashion, that is to make it as complicated as possible.
That was it. Yeah.
And for neutrals, people watching, for fans, for analysts and commentators as well, all as difficult as possible with the scoring. But
I think what was interesting going into our game with Afghanistan, there was. A couple of Zimbabwe players kind of looked like they were packing up and getting ready to leave the hotel, knowing that they were out effectively. And then someone just pointed out to them, "You do realise if it's a tie, then you go through."
So even the players,
yeah,
in the team weren't sure.
I think it was if the game was reduced to under 25 overs and it was a tie, then Ireland would have gone through. If it was a tie from a full game, then Zimbabwe would have went through on run rate. And if one team won, then they went through outright. So. It got very complicated. And I'd say there was a lot of team managers with laptops and calculators out during the tournament trying to figure things out. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, very tough. And I mean, run rate is just how you work that out is extremely complicated. It does take a while for me to get my head around it. So Grünwald has swapped ends. Then he's coming from the pavilion end now, and that one is. Just pushed out by Balbirnie into the offside and picked up at cover. And there's no run. Wonder why they've swapped him over. We did say he wasn't finding in line and length, so perhaps he feels that he'd prefer to bowl from this end. There's not much of a difference slope-wise. It's not like Lords or other grounds where you do see more of a slope. It's fairly flat here. It does sort of slope from, as we look at it, from left to right down towards the Andy Caddick pavilion. In comes Grünwald, and that was left alone outside the off stump. So perhaps that's slightly, and of course the breeze coming across makes a difference to which angle that is.
It could be something on a day like today. It could be that one of his steps and his run-up's particularly wet, and he's just got a drier spot on this end to run in on.
Yep. There's no way of knowing all this conjecture that we can try and put onto it, but in the end it might just be as simple as he fancied it, you know.
Yeah.
So here he comes again, then Grünwald from the pavilion end. Close-ish to the stumps there. Just took a step across, didn't he, Balbirnie there? Just made sure that it was going to go past his off stump, I think, just to add confidence in his mind. It did in the end. No run from it. And the ball being chucked between the fielders is now with Josh Davey, who will take a quick look at it. He opened the bowling. In fact, the only successful bowler with a wicket against his name so far for Somerset in this innings. Grünwald will come in again and bowl to Balbirnie. That just one turned off his pads onto the leg side there. He tried to get bat on it, but in the end it came off his pad. Leg by is signalled, and Ireland move on to 50 for 1. So that's the half century brought up on a leg by. Listening to the BBC coverage of this pre-season friendly between Somerset and Ireland. In comes Grünwald and left alone outside the off stump there. Ireland, of course, who will play their first test match in just over a month, on the 11th of May at Malahide, which is just outside the sort of Dublin area,
just
isn't
outside,
it?
just north of Dublin.
Yeah.
Right on the coast.
Yeah, lovely to have that. Is there a coastal breeze which comes across?
It's usually pretty good at Malahide.
In comes Grünwald, and that one just played onto the onside. It's fairly straight on. There's a misfield. It's gone through Don Bess, I think, really, and picked up by Tom Abel, who runs after it, and they've gone for 2 here, and that's off a misfield. So I think that's best. Will be disappointed that he's let that one through him. Just must have taken his eyes off it.
Yeah, Malahide just on a little estuary, and it tends to be relatively well hidden from the breeze. Portmarnock just up the road gets the worst of it. So it's definitely a nice ground to play. It's on the commuter train line out of Dublin, and the main line from Belfast down to Dublin. So we tend to get big crowds there, and hopefully we'll have a few thousand there for the first couple of days at least in the test.
I think it'll be absolutely rocking Malahide on the first. Just imagine that build up to the first ball.
Yeah.
Pakistan fans there as well, making plenty of noise, as are the Ireland fans. That'd be a great atmosphere. 11th of May that starts in Malahide. In comes Grünwald, and that one is always tucked up the batsman a bit there. Balbirnie, who's came at him sort of midriff. In fact, he's holding the very top of his thigh, so I wonder whether it came in at pretty painful.
Just snuck in between his pads, I think.
Yeah, could be quite painful. He's rocking on his feet there. I think I might have hit him in fairly painful spot. So he wanders back to the crease. Such as a batsman's lot often in cricket. You can only pad yourself up so much to allow free movement. In comes Grünwald, and that one is outside this off stump. Was Balbirnie bringing his bat in there and allowing it to go outside? Do you think that was playing a miss?
Certainly looked like it.
Yeah.
It's something I think Trescothick mastered at one point, wasn't it? That playing inside the line, knowing that he wasn't going to hit it.
Oh yeah, that's been a trademark for a long time for Trescothick. The confident bringing it inside the line.
Yeah.
And that is the first spot of Brian, the Somerset cat. I've just seen him out in the car park there. And comes Grünwald, left outside this off stump and not far away. Heart in mouth, I think, for Balbirnie when he saw. I think that might have moved in a bit actually when from where he first decided to leave it. So we'll be pleased to have heard it go through to the keeper rather than rattled out on the off stump. Yes, Brian, the Somerset cat, slowly wandering across the car park just by the scoreboard to the right of it. As we look, little ginger cat.
Yeah, we saw him earlier on actually.
Yeah, he's a regular. He's been adopted really by the cricket club. He's got his own Twitter feed. Speaking of which, I think we had some questions in for you, Chris. If you want to send Chris a question, then do get in touch with us. I'll tell you how in a second. Grünwald bowls, and that one just played out square into the offside. Defensive shot, no run from that one. Thank you to Jerry, who says, can you ask Chris if Cricket Ireland have spoken to Eddie Byram, who's an Irish passport holder, regarding his interest or otherwise in declaring for Ireland?
I'm not sure if we've spoken to him recently, but I can imagine that as soon as we're here that the head coach might have a little whisper in his ear and just see what he thinks and whether he would be interested. Now,
I believe he qualifies for Somerset through his Irish nationality. He's not an overseas player. In comes Grünwald, that one just defended, I believe, because he's Zimbabwean by birth, Byram, and I think that's where he was brought up.
But I think if he was then to declare for Ireland, he would then lose that status from next season, which may change his mind. If he was thinking of Ireland, then
depends what he thinks. If he can get picked up as an overseas player, he needs to. I suppose this season then is a great chance for him to prove himself that he's good enough to be Somerset's overseas or any other county for that matter. In comes Meekeren, and that one is cut away through the gap in the field. Lovely shot from Balbirnie, who just found that gap between point and cover, and it's a beautiful shot. Well timed, well cut. Just beautifully lent into it, really.
It's just that little bit of width again from Van Meekeren, almost exactly the same as the boundary a couple of overs ago. I think the last one was behind square. This one's just gone in front, but gap picked out perfectly by Balbirnie there. Yeah,
Tector's moved on to 21. Balbirnie from that shot moves on to 18, and Ireland are 56 for 1. So Ireland just seeing them open up a little bit more here. Perhaps these two bowlers that are on at the moment, Van Meekeren and Grünwald, are just the two which allow the batsman to do that.
The ball's a little bit older as well, and batters are both settled in. It just gives that opportunity the last kind of 20 minutes, half an hour. They've got a chance to add some to the score.
Grünwald in, and it's defended in the front foot. Takes a couple of steps forward. Does Tector on that one? Yeah, if you do want to get in touch with us, I've got Chris Siddle here, who's team manager for Cricket Ireland. Ireland, who are about to play their first test match in their history. Do get in touch with us. I'm on Twitter at CharlieTaylor4. It's Charlie with a IE on the end of it. Charlie Taylor and then the number 4. I'd love to know where you're listening from. I've had a few getting in touch from around the world, Singapore and Western Australia. In comes Grünwald, and that one is Well, there's an attempt to sort of push it into the offside. In the end, it's ricocheted off an inside edge and squirted out behind square on the leg side. So certainly not what he was planning to do. Takes a look at his bat there, Tector.
I think he just moved off the seam a little bit there and caught him by surprise.
Yeah, it was good movement from Grünwald, who is in his 6th over now. 1 maiden, 22 runs, no wickets. Balbirnie on 18 and Tector on 22. Grünwald into Balbirnie, who tries to defend that one, but again there's movement there, I think, from Grünwald.
Yeah, he's definitely been a lot better since he's changed ends.
Yeah, that has worked, isn't it?
Much more consistent. Yeah,
absolutely. He's found that line. That's the difference there, isn't it? He wasn't able to find it before. Whatever was going wrong at the river end. Look out over the rooftops of Taunton that we can see. There's the railway station in front of us as well. Every now and then a train trundles past, heading to and from Bristol one way and Plymouth the other. In comes Grünwald, and that's played out nicely onto the offside, just off his pads really. And there's 1 run, and that was well played by Tector. Moves on to 23, I think. The scoreboard yet to catch up on that one, or have I skipped ahead by 1? It's 58 for 1 at the moment, the scoreboard showing. I think it might have been Balbirnie who scored that one, so 58 for 1. He moves on to 19. And it's Tector on strike now. Yeah. On comes Grünwald, and that one just again, pretty much the same shot, just played onto the onside, pretty square off the top of the pads, and a single there. So now the score moves on to 59 for 1. Tector on 23 and Balbirnie on 19. And there's 1 ball left in this 25th over that we've had today. And Grünwald, the man currently bowling, he's been a stalwart in Somerset side since he was signed from Derbyshire. He's been a good performer for the county, good averages with the ball. Runs into bowl to Balbirnie, left alone outside the off stump, and lifted his bat very high above his head.
Made sure everyone knew he was leaving that one.
Absolutely no doubt in our minds here. And the commentary is players that sort of see a few of them out on the balcony at the Andy Caddick Pavilion here at Somerset, just on the left room, the away dressing room as we look at it. Yeah. And a bit of a murky day it's been in Somerset, raining until lunchtime, and then just waiting for that pitch to dry out. A couple of pigeons just meandering across it.
Yeah, it was definitely very wet. We turned up this morning with puddles on the outfield. We weren't sure we'd get on at all today.
And here we are. Here comes Van Meekeren, and that one's, I think, bat and pad. I think it's. I
don't know if it just caught him on the glove there.
Just is it the glove? Yeah. He's just practicing a defensive shot. There certainly wasn't a convincing bit of play from Tector, who just he's adjusting his glove there. I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. Just hit him on the glove as it comes through. Ireland 59 for 1 in reply to Somerset's 342 for 5. Here comes Paul Van Meekeren, Dutch international, into Tector, who tucks that away just behind square on the leg side, and they good fielding from Somerset stops the 2 from Ireland, but there's a single run. That was George Bartlett coming around. Bartlett, who failed with the bat yesterday, out for a duck. Off 3 balls, was strangled down the leg side.
It's often the case when you spend so long sitting, watching, waiting for your turn, and then...
Yeah, it came out just before the lunch break. Yeah. Truscothick and Byram had safely seen Somerset to within about 4 or 5 overs of the lunch break. In comes Van Meekeren, and that is pushed, and there's an edge there, and it's taken at second slip by Marcus Truscothick. It was pushed forwards by Balbirnie, and it's a good edge, which has carried to Marcus, who's very good in the slips. Marcus Truscothick, who rarely drops them. Yeah. A lot of experience at many levels, and Balbirnie gone for 19. The score 60 for 2.
Yeah, I think that's the line that Van Meekeren's just been searching for. He's been a little wide a couple of times, but it's that great line where there was no option to leave and just had to play at it, and a little bit of movement's got the edge. Yeah,
nicely bowled from Van Meekeren, who's only in his 3rd over, so he's looked quick and he's looked pretty accurate as well, so he'll be pleased to have found the edge of Balbirnie. And he makes his way back to the pavilion. The Somerset team come together, drinks are brought out. They've been playing now for an hour and 40 minutes. And of course they've had the whole morning and afternoon off, but they've come together for the evening session. The forecast, let's take a quick look, because we are on BBC Sports app or on the online as well, BBC Sport website. You can find us also on 5 Live Sports Extra. Just going to take a quick look at the BBC weather app, which has been pretty good this game so far. So the rest of the day, yeah, we should see through till 6 o'clock pretty fine. Tomorrow, there's no rain forecast. There's some black clouds, which should leave by about 11, 12 o'clock. Then we've got higher, yeah, that's pretty good for the bowlers, will be happy. Then we've got some higher cloud, not quite so strong, and then even some sunshine might poke out by around 5 or 6 o'clock. So we should get full day, just depending on the light perhaps. Yeah. But doesn't look like there's any rain between now and then, so the pitch should stay pretty dry. Monday, well, I'll wait till tomorrow to have a look at Monday, but it's
look at Monday later.
Not quite so good. We shall see.
There's, Niall O'Brien just made his way out to the middle there. And comes in, experienced about it.
So the wicketkeeper Niall O'Brien, who's he's been around a while. The O'Briens brothers, haven't they? They've both been around for a good time, a lot of experience, and he's a left-hander as well. So Ireland's first left-hander we've seen. In comes Meekeren, and that is well defended on the front foot by O'Brien. Gets his head down. One of those players that really crouches into the defensive shot. Looks good, doesn't it? And when it comes off right.
So he'd have a lot of experience with these kind of conditions, playing county cricket for so long, playing those early season games and university games and pre-season games.
Yeah, Somerset's first game I think was scheduled to be the 19th of March, which looking back on it was very, very early in the snow. In comes Van Meekeren, and there is an edge on that one. It's an inside edge, and it rolls out to the man on the fine leg boundary, who's fairly wide fine leg, sort of halfway between deep backward square leg and fine leg, but it's fielded. Just trying to work out who that is. I think it might be Eddie Byram, who's just making his way now, swapping around from the left hand, right hand
a long
partnership.
Jog across.
Yeah. I'm not sure it is Byram actually looking at it. Oh, it's Josh Davey.
Josh Davey,
doing that. Yeah.
38.
That's it, Josh Davey. Just see through the jumper. Making things difficult, the jumpers for commentators, covering up numbers. In comes Van Meekeren outside the off stump of Jack Tector, who is still in. He's on 24, O'Brien on 1. That's N O'Brien on 1. And Ireland are 61 for 2, and it'll be Grünwald who's preparing to bowl his next over, continuing from the pavilion end. What sort of help does having the O'Brien brothers in the side bring to Ireland?
Oh, it's fantastic to have guys that experienced. Niall in particular in the red ball game, so much county cricket and so much experience and knowledge of the game from being behind the stumps for so much cricket and so many good players. And then Kevin, obviously, he's a fantastic white ball player. He's got the fastest 100 in a World Cup, and it's really great having.
And who was that against?
Yeah, that was against England. And it's always great having that experience to be able to use on the field.
In comes Grünwald and bowls well outside the off stump, left alone by O'Brien, who sort of played a shot but well within the line of the ball.
Yeah, it's great having a wicketkeeper like Niall, who's got that confidence to be able to move fielders, and he can spot the angles pretty quick from the wicketkeeping end of things, and he's not afraid to move people and just kind of put people a few yards to the left or right to make sure they're in the right spot, which it's the type of thing you'd really miss if you had a quiet wicketkeeper with a little less experience.
In comes Grünwald now from the pavilion end. That one straight, and it's in on the pads. It looks close to me, and it's going to be a no. Might have been going down leg, I wonder. Oh no, down the missing off. He's pointing to offside, and the umpire nods his head. There you go. So acted out in front of us, just missing the off stump. For that one, it's close there.
Yeah,
it's
it was definitely a close one. Yeah, it's obviously hard to tell properly from this angle, but even from a little bit to the side, it certainly looked like it was very close.
Grünwald certainly fancied it, but I think when it was waved away, he knew what the reason was, pointing out towards the off stump. Ben Peverell, the man, and he's making those decisions from this end. In comes and there's goodness me, there's an edge, and he's edged it high, and it's gone for 4 over the head of Marcus Trescothick, who's at second slip. Oh well,
that's what they've been looking for, isn't it? That kind of full ball, a little bit wider. And luckily for Niall, it's just kind of sailed over the slips rather than straight into them.
Hit right at the bottom of the bat and just over the reach of the jumping Marcus Trescothick and Lewis Gregory, who are in the slip cordon. Well, Grünwald will be frustrated. It didn't carry to the slip as such. It went over them, but won't be too disappointed to see that kind of ball. And that one is played off a straight ball in front of his pads, and Niall O'Brien gets much more solid-looking shot, just for a single this time, down towards a backward square leg fielder.
It's a real left-handed shot. Full ball, just picks outside leg, and the confidence to just flick it away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice shot, and all the fielders and the umpires switch around. And now we have a right-hander, Jack Tector, on 24. He's been patient in his innings. Involves there's an edge there, but it goes along the ground to the fielder at Gully, who spills it, but it's picked up quickly at point, running round. There's no run from that one. I don't think that was nearly what he meant to do, Tector, with that one. Just, getting a bit of an edge. So Grünwald finding edges here.
Yeah, he's definitely been a different bowler from this end.
I wonder whether that, for the season, that means he's pretty much marked out which end he'll be bowling from for the next 6 months. Grünwald in again to Tector, and that's a straighter ball, and it's defended in front of his pads. There's no run from that one, so a good over from Grünwald. There was that 4, but it was a streaky 4 over the head of slip, so he'll be, I think, fairly pleased with.
Yeah, big appeal and then an edge, so be happy with the pressure and just try and keep it going in the next 10 minutes or so, and try and squeeze another wicket before the close of play. Yeah,
they've got about just over 10 minutes. Well, we assume they'll finish at 6. They finished at 6.
Yes, they'll finish at 6
yesterday. Yeah. Obviously, it is a friendly, so these rules, I suppose, could be chopped and changed, but it probably will be, like you say, a 6 o'clock finish.
There's a little bit of a conversation at the toss about whether we play the international regs for this or the county cricket reg for this. So I think one of those will finish on time at 6 o'clock, regardless of the overs. So
when you've got an international team playing a county team, you can sort of one team playing to one set of rules, another team playing to the other. So it will be Van Meekeren continuing, but not just yet. He's the batsman. I don't know, was that batsman not ready, or was there?
I don't know if he lost his run up a little bit.
Yeah, it looked to me like the umpire was almost waving it through as a no delivery before the bowler had reached him. I don't know. Look, there was something wrong there, wasn't there? Not sure entirely what it was. Perhaps there was a ripple in the sight screen, which is just a big white sheet which is pulled over 2 of parts of the ground here. So try again. Van Meekeren in from the river end, and that one is full, and it's got a... No, it hasn't. Thought it might just have taken an edge, but very, very close indeed. Van Meekeren has his hands on his head. The wicket-keeper and the slips looked interested.
Again, just that full ball, just tempting the batsman in. And I think Tector's done a fantastic job in leaving those, and it's obviously a lot harder for a left-hander, and Niall's just played at it, and luckily for him, it's just missed the edge.
Wow, very, very close indeed, and you could tell, can't you, from the wicket-keeper and the slips obviously much closer to it than we are, just how close that was. In comes Van Meekeren again and tucks up O'Brien this time.
Yeah, that's caught him in the gloves or something.
Yeah, he looks like he's in a bit of pain. Yeah. Was he gonna? You can often tell by the way they're looking at it. Niall O'Brien just sort of resets himself a bit there. So Ireland is 66 for 2. O'Brien's on 6 and Tector 24. The men out, Andrew Balbirnie, he was out for 18. And 19, I beg your pardon. And Shannon, who was out for 11. Tector's been there since the start, on 24. Van Meekeren, then the Dutch international, who's playing for Somerset today, comes in, and that one is again a good ball, but nothing from it, sort of straight onto the pads of O'Brien, but tries to tuck it round the corner. It didn't quite come off as he would have hoped, but no run from it. You're listening to Somerset against Ireland. It's a pre-season friendly from Taunton on the BBC Sport app, the Sport website as well. We're on the Somerset County website, linked up with the stream, so if you want to watch that, you can head on to there and you can watch it along with the commentary. Got 2 fixed cameras just focused in on the wicket. And Van Meekeren's pulled out again. I wonder if there is something a bit wet down there. Just looks like a couple of bowlers are struggling. I think there might be a little wet patch. It has been raining quite heavily this morning in Taunton. In fact, we only got to play underway at 4 o'clock.
There was a lot of water on that side of the field when we got here this morning. So
yeah, that's probably what it is.
He's maybe just going to change the line of his run up a little bit and run in a little wider just to avoid it.
And also on the radio, BBC 5 Live Sports Extra. So hello to wherever you're listening to us from, and that's down the leg side, and it looked like they might have taken something, but not bat, It did move quite a long way to the leg side there. I wonder if there was perhaps a bit of a thigh pad. Or
flicked the pad, yeah. Davies did well to get across to that one.
Yeah, he's good behind the stumps, Davies. Message from Richard, who says, could you ask Chris, I'm with Chris Siddle, by the way, who is the team manager at Cricket Island, could you ask Chris if there will be any coverage on radio or television of the Test match in Ireland?
There will be, yeah. It will be broadcast on TV, and Cricket Island will announce shortly whether that will be. I mean, from...
And Meekeren in, and that one is a drive, missed from O'Brien, and it goes through to the wicketkeeper.
I would think it will be available in the UK as well as Ireland. There'll definitely be a highlights package on RTE TV in Ireland each night after the Test, and again after the 2020s we have with India later in the summer. So I'm not sure about radio coverage though.
That will be fantastic to see that. I don't know what the BBC, whether the BBC will cover it even. Certainly they'll be mentioning it and covering it online in news articles. Whether there'll be live commentary, I don't know, but certainly will be good to look out for those. I imagine the atmosphere will just be fantastic at Malahide. In comes Van Meekeren, and there's again, I think he's got the better of O'Brien at the moment, hasn't he? He's beaten the bat there as an attempted defensive shot, quite a shorter ball from Van Meekeren. It goes through to the keeper, no run, and it's 66 for 2.
He does seem to be enjoying bowling to the left hand of Van Meekeren, so
yeah,
he'll be looking to keep him on strike as much as he can.
I think absolutely right, and it'll be Grünwald again who continue from the side that we're looking from, the pavilion end. There's a few gulls just make their way across the ground here. They sort of wake up in springtime. They realise that the cricket's here, and they know absolutely. Particularly in the T20, we were talking about this yesterday, that they love, because the T20s generally sell out here. So you get about eight-ish thousand people in, and generally there's a few leftovers. In comes Grünwald from the pavilion end, and that looks like an edge. They're celebrating. They're looking, and he's given. Tector is gone, and that's a patient innings for 24. And it is just the thinnest of edges which has gone through to Davies behind the stumps, and it's a good ball, and it's definitely that line that Grünwald has found here. And Ireland is 66 for 3.
It is. It's disappointing to lose that wicket, but that's exactly what Somerset have been working for, and just building that pressure, trying to squeeze that third wicket before we finish.
I said it was patient. That was the 79th ball for 24 for Jack Tector, so a really patient innings there. And he's played fairly well, and it's been difficult conditions, hasn't it, for the batsman?
It's definitely been moving around a lot, and there's been some very good lines. We talk about Grünwald just struggled from the far end, but he's came on at this end and he's bowled a much better line, much better length, and he's been able to put that pressure on. And just again, it's one of them balls that a batsman just can't leave. He has to try and play it, and once it moves a little bit, it's going to find that edge.
Yeah, it's a really good delivery there, and Tector, who's impressed really, he's young lad, he's done well there for Ireland. 24. He's made in testing conditions here, and you know, early April, it's always going to be tricky for batsmen wherever you play in England or Ireland, wherever it is. It's
I think the bowlers were looking forward to this one more than the batters.
Thank you to Stephen, who says, I'm listening now whilst doing some other things on 5 Live Sports Extra. Hello to you. You can get in touch with us if you've got a question for Chris. We're here for the next 5 minutes, so get it to us now at CharlieTaylor4 on Twitter. And you can find me there, and I can put your questions to Chris Siddle, the team manager from Cricket Island. Thank you very much for being with us, Chris. It's been great to have your insight. Really interesting.
It's good to come in and have a chat with people from outside of Ireland and who maybe want to learn a little bit more about Irish cricket.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's such an exciting time for Ireland to have this test status. So I'm really looking forward to that test match and hoping to catch as much of it as possible. So yeah, thank you. Do feel free to pop up any more time into the match. We'll be here, so please do. It looks to me like Paul Stirling.
Yes, that's right. Paul.
Unmistakable figure of Paul Stirling, who Stephen Lamb, who was commentating yesterday, described, since he's grown a beard, of looking a bit like Henry VIII to this.
Yes, yeah.
I did think it was a bit unfair on Paul Stirling, but
perhaps wouldn't argue with it too much. But yes,
he's well built, isn't he, Paul Stirling?
Especially with he'll have his 2 jumpers on there as well, which won't help.
That's true. That does add to the effect. But he's cast this big figure. He's
he's very strong. Yeah.
He played for Middlesex quite a few seasons now, isn't he? I've seen him playing for the county here at Taunton and at Lords as well.
Yeah, he got a very big 100 in the qualifiers, got a 150 in one of the games. And he's been in very good form. He's maybe hasn't had the runs that his form should have, if you know what I mean. He's batted very well for 30 and 40 in ODIs.
In comes Grünwald to Stirling and left alone, and quite a flamboyant little twist. Pirouette, really, from Stirling there. What do you think we'll see from Sterling? We've got 4 minutes left, and Sterling, do you think he'll just see it out, do you think?
I think there's 4 balls left this over. I think he's just going to look to see out this over, and then I'd imagine there'd be one more from the far end from Van Meekeren, and then I think the key really would be not to lose another wicket. Being 3 down would be...
Absolutely. Very important for Ireland. Grünwald in, and there's an outside edge on that one as Stirling came forwards to it, and that's no run from that one. Alan's been in touch. We've sort of covered this earlier on, but I'll ask it anyway because Alan's clearly just tuned in about Ed Byram. Is there any chance of him playing for Ireland as he has an Irish passport?
Yeah, well, there's obviously always a chance if a guy's performing, and he's going to have... It's being made a lot more complicated by Ireland having test status. It's almost an unwanted side effect as players losing the ability to play county cricket.
In comes Grünwald, and that one's left alone by Stirling outside the off stump. 66 for 3 now, Ireland. Yeah,
so basically when Ireland were granted test status and became a full member of the ICC, it then meant that players who were Irish and playing for Ireland would, from the end of 2019, will become overseas players in county cricket, which means you would have to choose between playing for Ireland and being an overseas player or having a county contract. So.
Yeah, Grünwald into Stirling, who plays that out onto the leg side. No run as it's picked up fairly quickly from mid-wicket. George Bartlett doing the fielding. Yeah, that's a tricky decision, isn't it? Because quite often the counties can offer you stability and guaranteed work and money, obviously, whereas you want to represent your country. There's the pride of doing that, isn't it?
You see a lot of that, even with Kolpak players. We're seeing a lot of that with South Africans making the decision, and it's a very hard decision for young lads to make. And obviously, there's the likes of Josh Davey and Paul Van Meekeren here who don't have to make that decision yet, but hopefully one day they will.
In comes Grünwald, and that one is fairly straight. It's the end of the over, and Stirling just defends it, and there's no run from that one. So Ireland 66 for 3. Yeah, the 2 players you mentioned there, Josh Davey, a Scottish international, plays ODIs for them, although wasn't involved in the World Cup qualifiers. And although it wasn't for injury, I think it just wasn't preferred to. There were some other
they've
quicker
got a
bowlers.
Very strong seam attack at the moment, Scotland. So
absolutely. That's probably the strength of their cricket, actually. I'd say they've got some decent batsmen, but it's their seam attack which is their strength. So Josh Davey missed out on that. And then Paul Van Meekeren, you mentioned as well, and Somerset actually have another Dutch international, Roelof van der Merwe, who isn't playing in this game, but again, like you say, when the Netherlands get test status, which I think is probably quite a long way off at the moment, but in comes Van Meekeren then, and that one played forwards, a drive from O'Brien, and he's found the gap between the 2 fielders, mid-off and mid-on, who come together and field. There's a couple of runs there for O'Brien, who's pretty happy with that one. O'Brien's not looking then to defend it out. He's actually been playing some quite bigger shots than the rest.
He's probably played a few more shots than the other batters that have come in. It's one of those things, a left-hander, sometimes you feel like you're given a little extra width and you can take advantage of it, and now's probably not one to shy away from that and likes to take advantage when he gets the opportunity. Yeah, 68 for 3, the scoreboard moves on to. Van Meekeren in again, and that one is an edge, but it bounces on its way to Marcus Trescothick, who managed to get a hand to it, not quite stopping it, but there's no run. I think the bat was angled down there, which just took the soft hands, a little bit of angle on the bat. Just venom was off it, and Trescothick, who's got lightning quick reactions, and into his 43rd year now, not with Somerset, just in total. Wouldn't be far off. No, he's not. Well, he joined as a teenager, so no, not at all. But yeah, he's wasn't quite able to get all of it on that one. Obviously, came through quite quickly. Tricky when it bounces as well. In comes Van Meekeren, and that one turned onto the leg side. That'll be 4. It's a great shot, pull shot from O'Brien, nicely timed, and no fielders in that area. It's picked up by the man who ran round from the backward square leg, but not close enough to stop it from going over the boundary for 4. So Ireland move on to 72 for 3, and a bit of attacking cricket we're seeing in this this last over from O'Brien. Do you think O'Brien would know how to defend out and over? Do you think he's just the player that you come across it? I think if you're going to bowl short balls like that at night or a half volley at him, he's going to try and put it away. I think there's a lot of players like that around that wouldn't miss a chance like that. Yeah, he's on to 12 now. In comes Van Meekeren, and that one is defended. A better ball, not a fuller ball from Van Meekeren, and caused O'Brien to defend it. It's always that risk as well. If you're trying to change your natural game, there's also almost more chance of getting out. But if he's getting a half volley and he's trying to just pat it back, then there's a good chance he might get it wrong. You see that so often, don't you? Play the way your natural game, and you get a short ball, you're going to put it away, especially when there's no square leg, then there's almost no risk to it, the same as just leaving it.
If you feel comfortable slogging it, if that's your game, if that's why you're in the team, and just, that's what you're there to do. And that one is just defended. It goes off square and it's fielded at the point fielder, and there's no run.
No, the good thing about Niall is he's got the ability to do both. That if someone bowls him a good ball, he's going to keep it out. But if he gets a bad ball, he's almost definitely going to put it away as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's a really good player to have for Ireland. Oh, there's a few more questions coming in. We're going to struggle to fit these. I might have to stay behind just after the final ball, Chris, as I did say to get in touch with us now, and people have done it, which is fantastic. I'll come to your messages in just a moment as Van Meekeren comes in. It's full ball and that's defended. So let's go through one of them now. Dave says, this isn't necessarily for you, because what's the margin for a follow-on in this match, 150 or 200? 4-day matches are 150, so that will be the follow-on here, but I don't think that will come into play. That's the end of the game, of the day, I should say. Ireland 72 for 3, they finish, and O'Brien not out on 12, Stirling yet to get off the mark, and that's where we will pick up tomorrow. Somerset started off in this game 342 for 5 yesterday they declared. On that one, Eddie Byron was not out for 124, and after the declaration, Ireland were put in, and they finished 72 for 3. It was Shannon who made 11, Tector made 24, Balbirnie 19, and at the moment we've got O'Brien on 12 and Stirling on yet to get off the mark. So that's how things stand at the moment. We've got a couple more messages to go through here just before we leave you. This is from Peter, who says, do Ireland have any further test matches on the horizon after the Pakistan game? Hashtag back in green, which is the Irish hashtag.
That's our hashtag. No, we don't at the moment. We have 2 2020s against India in June. We also have a tri-series with Scotland and Netherlands in June, which is 2020. And a white ball series with Afghanistan, where we'll be playing white ball 2020 and one-day internationals. But we don't have a schedule for the winter yet. I know there's a few meetings going on the next couple of weeks, so potentially we could have one over the winter, but there's nothing in the book yet.
And finally, Stuart Hawkins says, will Ireland be playing counties in pre-season? Will that become a regular thing? Seems a good deal all round, better standard than the university teams.
Yeah, I think if we're going to have red ball cricket early in our season, I think it makes sense for us to be over here. It obviously works on the schedule. Last year we had a lot of white ball cricket in May, and it didn't work out that the counties weren't looking for white ball cricket. So I think if it works out in a season that both a county and Ireland are both looking for the same format of cricket, then I think we would be looking to have more friendlies and pre-season games with them.
Oh, I think that's really good news, because this is great to watch. The start of the season, and a really good challenge for both Somerset and Ireland in this pre-season friendly. Thank you very much for being with us, Chris Siddle.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
The team manager of Cricket Ireland. We may well see you up here again in the box. Please do feel free to pop up. It'd be great to have your company here.
Thank you very much.
Over the next couple of days. We will be back just before the start of play tomorrow. It looks like we should get underway on time, which is 11 o'clock. So we'll be here at 5 to 11. Do join us. We'll be on the BBC Sport website. We'll be on the app as well. I'm just checking. We'll be on 5 Live Sports Extra tomorrow from around 10:55 through until about 4 o'clock. So you've got us for a long time on 5 Live Sports Extra. Tomorrow, do spend some time with us. It's great to have you with us. Hopefully enjoying this first English commentary that the BBC has done in England this summer. And at the moment, Ireland 72 for 3. I'll just run you through the bowling figures for Somerset as well, and the batting card just before we go. So the first batsman out was James Shannon, who was LBW to Davy for 11. Jack Tector made 24 before he was caught behind off the bowling of Grünwald, and Andrew Balbirnie made 19. He was caught in the slips by Trescothick from Van Meekeren. Lewis Gregory bowled 6 overs, 1 maiden, 16 runs for no wickets. Davy was again 6 overs, 3 maidens, 11 runs for 1 wicket. Jamie Overton bowled 5 overs, 2 maidens, 4 runs, no wickets. And Grünwald bowled 8 overs, 2 maidens, 19 runs, 1 wicket. And Van Meekeren, 5 overs, 1 maiden, 19 runs and 1 wicket. We'll be back at just before 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I do hope you can join us then. From me, Charlie Taylor, it's a very good evening.